Excellent. Okay, welcome everybody for tonight, the Lunenburg Conservation Commission December 4th meeting. We are holding this meeting by Zoom remote. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. The agenda lists all of the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those that are reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. Please address all comments to the chair. This meeting of the Conservation Commission will be held by Zoom at the link provided in this notice. And the meeting ID is 87526214314. And of course, if anybody is joining remote, I would encourage you to actually go to the agenda that's posted on the town website and click on the Zoom link because that does provide the easiest access. We'll start off tonight with a roll call. Jenny? Rich Bursch?
Present.
Jeff Viviano? Don't see him. Mike LaRouche?
Present.
Chris St. Germain?
Present.
Very good, thank you. Do we have any announcements from members of the commission? Okay, but I am not seeing any. And so for members of the public, comments must be limited to 3 minutes and on a subject matter that's under the direct jurisdiction of the commission. Comments about current agenda items are to be made during the comment period of that specific agenda item. Please address all comments to the chair. And then for anybody who wants to participate in public comment, I would encourage you to, within your Zoom window, usually around the periphery, there is a react icon that will allow you to raise your hand. Very good. And if all else fails, you can just make a noise or sound or wave at me, and I will call on you at the appropriate time. And also, if I do call on you, begin your commentary with your name and your address, please. Okay, I am not seeing anybody with raised hands either. We do have it looks like two meeting minutes that are up for approval. So for October 2nd, do I have a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you, Jenny. Thank you, Mike. Roll call vote. Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Rich Bursch,
Abstain.
Jenny Puthrer,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you. For the October 16th meeting minutes, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Jenny.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Roll call vote. Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Rich Bursch,
Abstain.
Jenny Puthrer,
Aye.
and I for myself. Okay, well, that gets those two meeting minutes approved. And we had scheduled for 7 p.m. a appointment hearing for Michael Ray Jeffries. He did call me just ahead of this and let me know that he was picking up someone at the airport and they were delayed, so he will be delayed. So we're gonna keep his appointment a bit on flex time. And he'll let me know. He'll give me a heads up via text on when he can be available to talk to us. Ah, okay, he has sent me a note at 7:30 is what he thinks. Do we have the folks from 950 Chase Road on already? They were the 950 appointment, but we could go ahead and do that if they're here. And Sophia, I think you had talked to them and asked them if they wanted to attend tonight. Is that right?
I didn't have a means of speaking with them. The only way to communicate was I sent a letter
Mm-hmm.
a couple, I think, right before Thanksgiving.
Okay, so it was a
Inviting them.
snail mail letter?
Yes.
That's okay. All right, good enough. So we don't know if they're going to attend tonight either. So we'll also put that on delay. So that if they do show up at 7 to 15 or after, they have an opportunity to be heard. And have we had any notifications of continuation requests?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, moving along. Opening the new public hearings pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a request for determination of applicability by Sean Keenan and James Basile on behalf of Jillian Pauling for construction of a detached garage within the southeasterly corner of the lot. The limit of work may encroach upon the 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland and a resource area located at 586 Reservoir Road. And do we have this applicant and their representative here with us tonight?
Yes, not the applicant. Good evening. My name is Limhut Tiv. I'm a project engineer at Goldsmith Press Ringwall. I'm kind of standing in tonight for Bruce Ringwall, who is the gentleman that everybody met at the site walk this previous Saturday at the project site. Here tonight as a representative for Jillian Pauling, who is the applicant and owner for the property. Do I have permission to share the site plan on my screen?
Yes, let me just double check that I've got those permissions set properly. Yes, you should be able to share.
Okay, it says sharing is not turned on. Let me see if I can send a request.
A request came through and I did grant it.
Alrighty. Okay, can everybody see the plan okay?
Yes.
Awesome. So the subject site is an existing single-family dwelling, shown here at the top of essentially a hilltop that shares a common drive with the abutting property. The applicant is proposing to construct a new 26 by 36 garage slash storage building located right here at the corner lot. As you can see, this line right here is a 5-foot offset for garage building to the property line, and we have essentially placed this garage building 5.5 feet away from the property line, giving the contractor, roughly 6 inches of a play for construction tolerance. In doing so, this new garage is set approximately just right outside of the 100-foot buffer to the large wetland area located down the slope from the property up on the northern side of the property. The property itself, the building itself is set right outside of the buffer limit. Any staging as well as storage area will be done outside of the buffer limit itself. And we'll be installing erosion control on the down gradient end of the work. As I understand, during the site walk on Saturday, Bruce had answered most of the questions that you all had on site, but I'm happy to answer any more questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. As I understand it, there are 3 trees that are in that location that will have to come down, and those trees are outside of the 100-foot buffer zone.
So I'd like to correct that mistake. There's actually 1 tree that's going to come down, not 3.
Okay.
This one here in particular. The 3 that Bruce was referencing are these 3, and they're actually
Okay.
placed outside of where the building is, where the garage building is going up.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
But I also appreciate that you actually have that detail on your drawing. That's really helpful for us. I don't have further questions. I will open the opportunity for other conservation commissioners to ask questions. And it looks like we don't have any questions from other conservation commissioners, which is a little bit unusual.
So I don't have, like I said, is a question.
Yes, Jenny.
Where it's not in the buffer zone at all, is it even in our jurisdiction?
It does look like it's outside of the buffer zone area. But the yeah, it looks like the limit of work is actually inside the buffer zone. So I would say technically it is, but I mean, in my opinion, that's a gray area. I don't know if Rich has a different opinion there. He's the guy that's been around the block a little bit more than I have.
Yeah, so number one, they have filed, so that does put it under our review. Being 100.1 feet away from the wetland, it's kind of hard to say that they're going to be able to stay in that envelope and not be outside of it with any of their construction vehicles or anything else that has to do with the construction of the garage. So they really do need to file for our review for sure. And they do have erosion control, which was one of the big things I was looking for. And there is a driveway in between them and the wetland, so it is called for the erosion protection. And their envelope of work, of course, will probably take them inside the 100-foot, in my opinion. So,
Thank you, Rich. Thanks for that clarification. Sophia.
I would just like to echo that, what Rich said. When I first reviewed this, that was my number 1 concern, which was the buffer zone was there, but the limit of work wasn't shown. So I wanted to know where the limit of work was. And unless the building was going on like helical piles or something like that, it's impossible to build a building like Legos, like directly from the ground up. Obviously, you'd be working around the building with equipment. So I do question where that limit of work actually is. And I am glad to see the erosion control on the opposite side of the driveway. But that was my main point with this.
So I can't raise my hand, which is why I'm not raising my hand, because when I'm a chair, I can't raise my hand. But
Okay,
thank you
yeah,
for all
Jenny.
of that information, both of you. And I was looking at the narrative on OpenGov, and it said, and you're right, if they can't go behind, because there's only 5.5, well, it's 5.5 feet, so there's not much area behind.
Yep.
So there's going to have to be stuff happening in the front. But on the narrative, it says limit of work, stockpile, and staging. areas will be located outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So I don't know how that would be possible where it's right at the 100-foot.
That's a great point. I think the narrative is I would say incorrect. I think you're right. 100% getting access to the construction area, even just working on the building, is going to need a little bit of space right in front. Um, Obviously, that's why we made the filing. But yeah, you're right. There needs to be a correction made to the narrative.
So, Tiv, would it be within your expectation that the limit of work would be expanded to kind of be the where the erosion controls are and looped around to be inclusive of the staging area and the working area around the staging area?
Right. I think more specifically for the stockpile area, um,
Mhm,
I don't believe that there's a whole lot of grading that needs to be done for the construction of this building.
mhm.
I would say that the grading associated with it is probably very minimal. So any fill material that they would bring in, the stockpile area would have to get surrounded with erosion barrier.
Mhm.
We typically require that, and you know that could be part of the either approval condition or something that we can let the contractor know.
Well, I think we would definitely want to have that written down and have the plan modified so that we have a paper trail that what we specifically agreed to.
Okay,
Um,
no problem.
and to my conservation commissioners, would you be actually, Tiv, do you have the ability of marking this up
Yes, I
with
do.
your, I mean, like live, could you mark it up right now and show us where you would put
Oh,
that limit of work?
so I think let's see here. So it does show this red lining if you're following my cursor.
Right.
It seems like that is being called out as the limit of work, but
Yeah,
I
but
think this line would actually extend to right about here and then wrapping down to, roughly around here and then
yeah.
closing in right there. Um, that'd be the extent of it.
But I mean, even the staging area, presumably you're gonna have heavy equipment getting in there and I don't know, moving trusses in and out or something, right?
Mhm.
Siding.
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
Why don't you revise it? Why don't you get back to your team and revise it to where the equipment actually is going to move
Mhm.
and then resubmit that. Would anybody on the commission want to see, I mean, see anything different or additional or have any other questions regarding this so that if we do continue it, they can come back with a fully complete proposal. Rich?
I was just gonna suggest that if we update the narrative that the erosion protection follows the north boundary of the driveway. And the erosion protection is a limit of work. Then we could always just put that into our order of conditions. Or we can add it as a condition to
To
the
our
to the
negative determination.
finding. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the easiest
Okay.
because I
That would
mean,
be a lot
they're-
easier. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
yep. Yeah, because it's not like it's gonna do much on the north side of the driveway. So if they have the erosion protection following the north side of the driveway and the erosion protection is a limit of work, that allows them to drive the equipment around in front of the shed if they need
Okay.
to. The staging area and the stockpile area are already outside of the 100 foot, so as long as they stay outside the 100 foot, we really don't have a whole lot to say about it, but
And is that clear to you, Tiv?
Yes. So This erosion control line here would extend along the existing pavement all the way up to the
Yep.
house, and that should
Yep.
cover this area.
Excellent.
Well, that covers the stockpile and the staging areas,
Gotcha.
because it
Yeah.
does all kind of flow slowly to the north side of the driveway and then plummets to the wetland.
Now, you mentioned that can be done through, is it approval condition or is that something that you need to see on the plan? Because they have no problem extending that erosion control in the field, I'm sure. I guess it's just a matter of leaving a paper trail, like you said.
I'd be okay setting it as a condition of the finding, and then having you resubmit the update the drawing and resubmit the drawing to be consistent.
Alrighty. Would that need to be followed up with another meeting or?
No, I don't
No.
believe that it does. I think Rich had a great suggestion. And I think
Alrighty.
I'm looking for a motion to approve this RDA with a negative determination with the condition as articulated that the erosion control follows the northern border of the driveway and that the erosion control is the limit of work. And the applicant will update the drawing and resubmit that. And that'll be a condition of us actually finalizing the paperwork. Do I
So
have that
moved.
motion? Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call vote. Chris St. Germain,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Jenny Putherer,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. I was just scanning our applicants here to see for our attendees. I don't see the I don't see any of our appointments logging on yet, so I think we'll move on to the next new hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a request to amend an order of resource area delineation by Christopher Anderson to remove a portion of the resource area delineation from the order due to maintenance performed on a man-made detention basin at 400 Leominster Shirley Road. And do we have that applicant and or their representative here on the call tonight?
Yes. Bill Hannigan, Hannigan Engineering.
Okay, thank you. Do you have plans that you can share with us?
Absolutely. So for the record, Bill Hannigan with Hannigan Engineering. The sheet we're looking at right now is part of the plan set. Trying to move this down a little bit if I can, just so I can view it. Let me do it. So this property had an ORAD issued a couple of years ago, which basically went out and we defined all the wetlands on the property on the east side. I'm sorry, the south side of Leominster Shirley Road. Let me just I need to stop share for a second and redo this a different way. I want to be able to have more than one sheet. Okay. One second to bring up the other sheet. Anyways, the area in of all the wetlands were approved. They were walked by at the time, I think it was Matt Morrow that walked it with Chuck Karen. They went through it, the commission went out and reviewed certain areas that were of concern, and everyone agreed that those areas either were or were not wetlands at the time. So the ORAD was issued by the commission. Sometime after that, let me see, maybe it does have both. Yeah, okay. So there's the second half of the D series. The D series of wetlands was designated by Keating as being a man-made detention pond that they utilized as part of their overall operations for the Keating plant. There's wash ponds across the way, and these drained through a culvert system underneath Leominster Shirley Road into this area here. Sometime in the past, they had this functioning, and to basically control the situation a little bit better, they had a trench dug through the property to the north, which is now where the 475 Leominster Shirley Road building is. So when we built that building, that cut off the trench that they were able to divert that water to, so the water now had to come back over here. So they then submitted information for to be able to rebuild this detention area, and the commission granted that RDA request for that. So what we're here for, and I have some pictures as well, see if I can bring those up. This is all part of the submittal package that we had provided. So what they did was essentially, this is the driveway coming through. So that that driveway is approximately right in this area here. There's a paved driveway that comes through the property that heads up to the back of the site. So in this picture here, that driveway is just beyond these rocks. My truck is parked right there. And this is the drainage system that they built rebuilt as part of the RDA that they submitted to the commission, which was approved. So this drainage facility is actually part of the operational system for the Keating operations on the other side of the road. And it was approved by EPA to be utilized as such. And on the other side of the drainage basin area, right about in this location right here, if you can see my cursor on the screen, there's a culvert. And on the plans, that culvert is shown right in here. So their EPA requirement is that they have to test on this side of the culvert, the outlet of the culvert, every quarter, and provide results to the EPA. Okay, so rebuilding of this detention basin or drainage structure, if you will, kind of basically eliminates this D series of wetlands. And the reason why we went out and walked it with Sophia, and when we looked at this area, when we filed our ANRAD, this area looked very much like this area, all overgrown with brush and brambles. And we did not know, and Keating did not reveal to us that was part of their operational system. So when we went through and had this area delineated, the idea was, looks like a wetland. There's water from across the street, water from the street goes into a pipe, goes into another wetland. There's our D series. Well, now with the introduction of this structure into that whole area, or a majority of that area, this kind of takes away from that D series wetland falling under the jurisdiction of the act and of the local bylaw. So what we're asking is that the order be amended to eliminate the D series of wetlands, which would then be consistent with what the commission granted for the Keating people to build. And they actually used these same plans when they submitted to you. They used these plans from our office to show you where things were. So I think it's pretty straightforward. If you have questions, I'd love to help you through this, but we're trying to decide what are we doing with this piece of land, and whether this is something that we have jurisdictional requirements that we need to meet, or something that, that the commission, by designating this as a drainage system for the Keating project in default, basically eliminated that D series, and we're just trying to get the paperwork lined up to make it make sense.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I think it's straightforward, and did have the, opportunity to walk out there this weekend. And, also had an opportunity to walk out there one of my second or third site visits, after being appointed as Conservation Commissioner. So I understand a little bit of the history. Do we have any other questions from members of the commission? Yes, Rich.
Uh, Bill, has the size of the basin changed at all?
The size of the basin?
Yeah,
Well, it's a
The
good
area.
question, because I don't know what it was back in the 70s when they were using it. So I presume
Okay.
that that's the same size as the basin that they were using. It seems like it makes sense relative to the level area that's out there.
Mhm.
There's a little bit of a slope going up on the first picture to the left side. There's slope that goes up before it goes drastically up, but I don't think it. I don't know whether it's bigger or smaller, quite frankly. But I know when we took these pictures, there was no water in it, and when we went out there with Sophia, there was probably about a foot of water in all of these, Sophia. They were actually, so it was actually functioning and being used. And this is at a time when we haven't had rain. At that point in time, we hadn't had rain in, months. So it was clearly being used as an overflow structure from the operations across the street.
Rich, what I saw on Saturday looked, you know, very close to what I had seen a year ago, 18 months ago. But I didn't measure it then, and I didn't measure it, so it's just kind of going by memory, but it looked similar.
Okay. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. So basically, Bill, the area you had surrounded in blue was a wetland, and you're trying to get it re-delineated as a drainage structure, so it would not have the buffer zone attached. Is that where we're going with
Well,
this?
it's not that. It's kind of, we said it was a wetland.
Yep.
The commission, by issuing the RDA to Keating, essentially said it was not a wetland because of the fact that they allowed that drainage basin to be rebuilt under a -2.
Mhm.
So they even said in it that the work is not within the buffer, not within, it's in the buffer zone of jurisdictional area. So the buffer zone, I would presume, would be from across the other side of the access pass would be the buffer zone here. Okay. So what we could do is, if we agree on all this, what we could do is submit a new plan as a follow-up to basically take the D series off and redraw the buffer zones on the other side, so that plan becomes the updated plan for the project, so that we all have a record that we're working with. If that's acceptable, I think that would make sense.
And not that I'm gonna get a chance to take a look or a site visit, is it something you can present the draft with the changes that you're requesting before we approve it?
The change I'm requesting is to eliminate this. So it's really
Yep.
not, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically update the buffer zones to be relative to just this wetland system
That
versus
wetland.
both of them.
Mhm.
That's not really a significant change. This system will then have its own buffer zone coming around this way.
Mhm.
But I could do the same thing as the previous one. I can get you the plans prior to Sophia issuing the amended ORAD. No problem with that.
Okay. And is any of this on in the cloud that I can take a look at? I haven't been able to find it on SharePoint or Viewpoint, Mary.
I think it's in, OpenGov.
Yeah, this was submitted a while ago.
Sophia, I found it. I thought I found it in OpenGov, but I I don't remember, where I found it.
It's not in OpenGov because that would have to be like a newer thing. We didn't have the ORAD set up yet. Amendment, application. It's in the, SharePoint folder under the, meeting materials. There's three
I know why I
documents in-
found it. I found it because Jenny sent me a nice list, link to all of the, sidewalk documents. Thank you, Jenny.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
I did.
so
I
Rich,
do
the-
see it here.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's a narrative that basically just explains what we're doing. There's
Mhm.
this plan and this plan and these pictures. That's the extent of the filing.
Okay.
And I don't know, Sophia, if you took any pictures that you want to show them, or if you've downloaded them.
Which is a
I
good
actually,
segue.
so I have this plan brought
ahead.
up, so I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Rich. Sophia,
Yes, I do have additional photos. They're not really much different other than there's water in there. It's up to the commission if they want to see those.
I'm good. I saw it with, water this weekend, but I'll allow other commissioners to speak up. Okay. I don't think we need
Um,
extra photos.
Okay. To be honest, I am a little confused on kind of how it was overlooked as not a stormwater management system, and I'm just trying to understand where the decision, Bill, you mentioned the decision of the commission that it was not considered a wetland. Can you point to where that's stated?
I don't think that actually was stated, and Bill may have, I mean, I'm just going by memory. I actually think that the action of the commission, by allowing it to be, be maintained as and brought back into service as a retention pond, that action and allowing that action, said that it's not.
This is
Yeah.
where I got that information right there.
Yeah, fair enough.
So essentially, the work that was being done in the D series, which we called a wetland, and the reason why we called it so a wetland, Sophia, is because you could, as if you remember, we looked across the other way, and it looked just like that, except it was probably leafed at the time. And so there was no way that we would have ever known that there was some sort of a drainage structure in there. And that's quite frankly, that's why we just we flagged it as a wetland, because it had road drainage or had a culvert from the other side of the road. And then it had another culvert going underneath the driveway and then into another wetland, which then goes off the site. So, I think had we known that it was if Keating had given us the heads up of it, we probably would have come in and said, hey, this is not an area subject to the act because this is part of their system. Here's the EPA documentation that they presented to you after we were all done. And I'm sure the commission probably would have said the same thing back then, and they probably would have asked, well, are you ever going to use it again? And at the time, we would have said, we don't know. We don't know if they're going to ever use it again. But as time went on, they came to the point where they had to use it again. So it's kind of, the intent is to basically take the D series off, because when we filed the plans, in other words, if Keating wasn't on the other side of the road, and like say that basin was there from the 80s or the 90s or whatever it was, and they stopped operations on the other side of the road, we still would have flagged it as a wetland, and we would never have come back to the commission to alter or amend the ORAD unless what happened. So now what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with our client and, developers and development teams and banks and all these other things. And we have to certify certain things in the plan. and they see these two documents at the registry of deeds and say, well, wait a minute. One says the D series is a wetland, the other one says there's a basin in there, which is, so this will kind of clear up that issue, number one. And then it'll allow us to move forward with the rest of the design, preliminary design process of what we're working on right now. If that makes sense.
Sophia, wasn't, I actually thought I saw something that you had forwarded from DEP about this property and about this, inconsistency.
Um, I might have,
So I see something in, email, from September 24th, maybe? I don't know.
what's the title coming up as?
Lunenburg / SDA intervention.
We didn't file this request till the end of October.
Yeah, I'm not sure that correlates with this.
The address is the same.
That might have been related to what Keating was doing. Not sure. Their
Maybe so.
permit. Oh, Sophia, isn't that when you recorded the actual the actual RDA? Right about that same time frame? I believe I sent that over to you earlier.
The from
For the Keating one.
from what year?
This year?
No, on September 11th of 24, someone recorded the RDA, the DOA, determination of applicability, at the registry of deeds. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, they filed it with DEP, not registry of deeds. They filed with DEP, and that was let me reshare. So that was this document, I think. Because I called and asked for a copy of it, and no one seemed to know where it was. And then you recorded it or sent it into DEP, but the date was I'm not sure what the date was. Detention basin maintenance and drain clearing. Negative determination. -3. So what was the date of the email that you got, Mary?
September 24th was when, Sophia sent it.
Is this the same document that was in that email?
No, this is a letter.
So I'm
Uh,
up if you want me to share my screen.
that would be great, Jenny. I actually have that email on a different device. I don't have it on this device.
Oh, no.
Yep, that's
Oh.
it.
Yeah, that's it.
Can you scroll down so we can get the whole? There's
Yeah,
all the
that's
verbiage.
great.
So they're going in reverse.
Yeah, based on this, I'm not certain we can actually take action right now.
what do you do when it's already been done? So I don't think, and this is another complication that's out there, is the actual filing and the actual meeting was not September of 2024. It was quite a ways back.
I think that's just the issuance of the letter, of
Right.
this letter, right? Yeah, and I think DEP, my read on this is DEP is just saying, hey, Lunenburg, you know, provided a negative determination of applicability where you shouldn't have, right? But for the same reason that you just pointed out, Bill, that it either was a wetland and subject to protection or not a wetland and therefore should not have been designated as a wetland in the ORAD.
That, I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
I can share the RDA from Keating, which I think kind of goes through what that was, and I don't know the dates of the meetings.
Well, you know, me as one commissioner, I don't have any issue with what you've put in front of us, and that actually, you know, I've learned a lot since I was a new conservation commissioner, right? It was very new back then. And so did not understand the all the complications and implications of the documentation, which I understand much better now. So what you have proposed, in my mind, aligns with what my intent as a commissioner was back then, without me having the wherewithal to actually, you know, advise my colleagues on what I thought should happen. So, but where we are today is that the DEP is saying that no further action can commence, right? Which also constrains us from further action until they issue their determination.
I think what this letter is saying, this is a letter basically saying to Keating, you can't do what you're asking to do because based upon the information that we have right now, or because the actual determination of applicability went out, much
Mhm.
later than the actual determination was voted on.
Right, it's probably something that
think it
just
was like
happened
in
out of some audit.
February, March of 23 is when it went through, I think,
Mhm.
if I remember correctly, because I think that that's actually cited in my letter as well, of when it went.
So let me
So
do what I would propose is to do a straw poll of my colleagues on the commission to see where their mind is at on your proposal to amend the ORAD, and then we'll at least, you know, have read the room. And if they are inclined to approve your proposed amendment to the ORAD, then I would recommend that we continue the hearing and have Sophia call DEP and make certain that us taking making a determination to approve your ORAD amendment would align with what DEP thinks we should be doing here.
right, so our ORAD was issued by the commission December of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
In January of 2023, PJ Keating submitted a request for termination to basically rebuild the man-made detention basin. And they utilized the plans that we prepared for the ORAD as part of saying, here's where we're going to put it. They also provided they provided information with that filing, excuse me, that has like the long filing. They provided with their determination of request for determination, they provided the EPA plan of what they were working with, which DEP may not have seen because they might need to go back and look at I can see where DEP is coming from. You know, they're looking at it and saying, hey, same way we did, you know, the commission approved rebuilding this drainage structure, which was in an area that was part of a wetlands that was a wetland ORAD that was issued, you know, a year earlier. So you can't do it. What they don't know, what DEP may not know, is that it's already been done. So whatever logic was utilized in the commission granting the original DOA, I think is consistent with what we're saying of why we should not have the D series as part of the ORAD. And I think actually by the commission amending the ORAD to eliminate the D series from the ORAD, provide an amended ORAD, that actually cures the problem with DEP.
I would imagine that you're right. I
DEP
would
doesn't
be
know that
hesitant.
DEP doesn't
Yeah.
know that we've requested an amendment to it.
Yeah, I would be hesitant, given the notification, I would be hesitant to take action without contacting them first.
Yeah.
Sophia?
I was just going to echo that. I would really feel more comfortable reaching out to Rebecca at DEP to discuss it, and I can, you know, if the commission wants to send me any questions or concerns or talk about it now, I can write that down and make sure I talk about it with her.
Okay, thank you. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a straw poll of the conservation commissioners to just see where their mind, where their headset is on if we were going to take action on, Bill, your proposal that's in front of us, would they be inclined to approve it, given what we know and what we approved in 2023, or would they be inclined to not approve it? And I'll just go right down the list. Jenny?
I would prefer that Sophie reach out to Rebecca and get some clarification before we took any action.
Well, we're not making an official vote right now. I'm just trying to see if there's something else that you would be looking for. And are
no.
you just saying that you,
Would like clarification.
okay. All right, Rich?
Yes, I would like a little more clarification. I mean, honestly, I've never done an amendment to an ORAD before, so most of my questioning would be paperwork to make sure it's done properly so that it is reclassified as a detention pond and not a wetland.
Thank you.
And also if there's, I guess, and this would go back to my question of if we can get an updated plan of what they're trying to have as the outcome of this change in the ORAD, rather than kind of explaining it with a blue line on 2 different pages.
Yep.
Which just makes it a little bit easier for us to hang our hat saying, yep, I understand this. Because I do remember actually meeting you out on site that back in, I guess it was either the end of 2022 when the earthen dam there was giving way. And they were pumping the pond.
Yeah.
So, and then I went back, I did find the IDA from 2023. So, I mean, that definitely shows what was there. And now now I can see the finale of your activities there. So, and it hasn't changed in size, which is one of the criterias. So, but yeah, just to make sure that we're doing the paperwork part properly, and then that just gives Bill a chance to give us a draft of what the final outcome's going to be.
Fair enough, thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I echo what I've been hearing from my other commissioners, that it would be nice to get a clarification so we can move forward.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
Same.
Okay. So Sophia, I'll give you the action to call DEP and actually get those clarifications, ask if the Conservation Commission can actually take an action right now with this DEP review underway. And then if we can take action, what is the process and the appropriate paperwork that would need to be followed and filed. And then Bill, you'll get us an updated drawing.
I would ask Sophia if there's a way that I could be included in the conversations with DEP so I can hear what's going on.
Probably going to be a phone call, Bill. Sophia, is that right?
Yeah, we usually call each other.
You can loop me in.
So, Bill, I'm actually going to ask her not to loop you in, not because
Okay.
I want to exclude you, but just because a lot of times it just makes a lot of overhead to try to schedule something with DEP
Right.
and then with my resources and with your availability. And I really want the Q&A to happen between now and the time we meet on December 18th.
Sounds good.
Okay, so
I guess we'll ask for a request to continue this to the 18th.
very good. That's just where I was going next.
I
So
could
do I
sense
have
it.
a motion by the commission?
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. Thank you, Rich and Jenny. Roll call vote, Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
aye.
and I for myself. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Sophia, is there a way that you could send me that letter from DEP to Keating? So that I can review that with my client?
Yes, I can send that.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we go into the continued public hearings, I see that our 7 o'clock appointment has joined us, Michael Ray Jeffries. So Michael Ray, thank you for joining us tonight. And I had reached out to Michael Ray to kind of get some advice on options that the commission might have in the management of our Hollis Road property, where we actually have a house and a custodian agreement. So Michael Ray, I also know that you're on the road, and I appreciate you you taking time to dial in and talk to us, even though it might not be the most convenient of times.
Well, thank you, Mary. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're coming in loud and clear.
Excellent. Well, to the members of the commission, again, thank you for having me with you this evening. I know I'm a little shorter on time than I expected, and apologize for being a little late due to unexpected traffic and other stuff. But I'll be kind of brief, and if we need to continue this conversation at another date, I'm certainly open to that. So Mary reached out to me to discuss the property that you have on the, I think you guys identified as a Hollis property, and really taking a look at the license agreement that you have with the tenant. And I had a conversation with Adam Costa, and really what I want to kind of highlight is the need for a better management structure with that agreement. And I just want to clarify a couple of things as well. So to get started here, you guys have it framed as a license agreement with this, what is essentially a tenant. And I understand from a legal perspective, and again, I talked to Adam about this, Adam Costa. I understand that, it's kind of a creative legal trick to kind of pretend as if someone's not a tenant while they actually are. And so you call it a license agreement because you're trying to say that there's no real tenancy relationship here. But if this was a typical allowable practice in Massachusetts, every landlord would be doing it. Realistically, once you provide tenancy, a place for someone to reside, there's no way that you're getting out of the landlord requirement. It just is what it is. And so by having the property there, making it available for someone to live at, you are a landlord. It is a lease agreement. You can call it what you want, but it's a lease agreement. And so one of the things that I would And with the lease agreement, the real trigger here is what we call the state sanitary code. The state sanitary code is what outlines in state law what your obligations are to your tenants as a landlord. And your license agreement isn't quite there. So what I recommend broadly is, right now the compensation rate, $850 a month for what is a house in Lunenburg. It's well below market. I think that in the past, there was some communication that really mirrors the language that's in the license agreement, but by no means is an actual restriction that says that the money gathered can be used for the purpose of this property. In reality, the money that you collect from this property can be used for any purpose that conservation deems appropriate. So you don't have a restriction on the rent from this property being beholden or limited to improvements on this property. So the path ahead that I recommend is a couple of things. The first is there needs to be, and I'm going to kind of explain broadly or quickly here what a good kind of formula is. So there's a need. I know that you guys have some kind of account that allows you to maintain your property. And what there's a need to do is there's a need to have what is a facility stabilization fund or a maintenance fund within that revolving account of sorts. And what the best path ahead, and let me step back from this. What I do professionally is I'm a vice president, senior vice president. I manage a lot of asset management. I manage a lot of property. I have a lot of tenants. I'm very familiar with the state sanitary code, very familiar with property developments, capital needs assessment. So, as I have this conversation with you, I'm really speaking to you as a property professional and not so much as a member of the select board. But, there's a need to do what is a 10-year capital assessment of identifying what your costs are going to be. Everything has a lifespan. Your boilers, some of your service panels, kitchens, bathrooms, your roof, building envelope type things, all of these things have a lifespan on them. And so having a 10-year assessment of what are over the course of 10 years, what do you project to have to replace? And then also, kind of having somewhat of an annual maintenance cost idea of, hey, every year we might have to come in here and unclog a drain. There might be a hole in the wall. We might have to repair it. What are those costs going to be? And then you also calculate overhead. I'm recommending a self-management here, that you don't hire a property management firm, because I think that a strong lease and a good structure, you guys have the ability to do it yourselves. And I think, I'm offering to be helpful to you on the front end of this to help this, structure get in place. But you need to have some idea of overhead. If you have staff time that goes into this, what is that? So with your capital needs assessment, with your kind of estimate of maintenance, with your overhead calculations, what you do then is you back out what you minimally need to collect every single year. And I'm gonna throw a dollar amount at you that's completely fictitious, but I'm just gonna give you an idea. You might come to an idea that says we need to collect $1,000 over 11 months in the course of a year to do this. And I'm gonna explain this 11-month model here in a minute. But you need to collect, let's say, $1,000 over the course of 11 months. There's a need to do a market analysis of what is this property worth. If you put it on the market for rent, how much money are you going to collect? And let's say that number is $2,500 a month. And again, I'm just throwing numbers at you that are not based in reality. But let's say it's $2,500 a month. So then you're in a position where, if I collect $1,000 a month and it's got to meet the basic property needs over the foreseeable future. And the market rate of this is $2,500. And so you have a $1,500 flex there of money to play with. And I'm not really saying play with, but I'll keep explaining that. So if you have a desire for this tenant to provide some maintenance on this property, what's needed is a really detailed list of what this maintenance is, as well as time calculations for how much time it's going to take to perform this maintenance. So let's say that over the course of the seasons that you're expecting from April till November, 200 hours of maintenance is going to be performed. And I always recommend to be over generous in your calculations of how much time it's going to take. So let's say you come up with an amount of 200 hours. You then do a prevailing wage assessment of if we had to hire someone to do work for the town for 200 hours, that's landscaping, etc., what is the value of that work? And you're going to get some calculation, and let's say that value comes out spread out over 11 months at $600. And so now you have, if I collect $1,600 a month, I can get this work performed, or I provide my tenant an essentially credit for $600 a month in exchange for them performing this work. So, your rent value at that point is $1,600. Market's 25, but then you give your tenant a credit based on the work that they performed. And then, there's a difference between 1,600 and 25. And so then you have the ability there to say, do we want to provide this property at 80% market? Do we want to provide it at 60% market? These are things you can identify. And let's say you do want to provide it at 80% market. And so you really only need to collect, let's say $2,000, $2,100 a month. And that gives you the ability then to collect an additional $500 every month. And for that $500, that goes into your general conservation maintenance fund. So in this kind of concept of a model, you identify your base needs, you identify what they are, you assign a value to the work you expect your tenant to perform. You can identify the gap between market and what else you want to collect to be able to perform, collect savings or have funds in other areas. And that's really how you kind of identify what your rental value is here. So then you work on a lease. And what that lease should entail are some structure of property inspections and also a schedule in which you expect this tenant to provide documentation for that the work is complete. So as an example, if you have tasks that need to get completed by middle of May, you have built into the lease that, hey, by May 15th, you will provide video documentation of these trails being minimally, maintained. And then you have other standards that, hey, by June 15th, you'll provide documentation, video. Everyone has a cell phone. You provide video documentation that that this work has been performed. And so you put standards into this lease for how you're going to verify that these things will be done. And then you also throw in there things that need to happen, like the fire inspections and some kind of fire training. And you coordinate that with the fire department. They'll do it for you for free. But the bottom line there is when you have a tenant, you want to make sure that they know some basics. If the smoke detectors are beeping, don't unplug them. If your smoke detectors are triggering every time you cook bacon on the stove, probably time to replace your range hood filter. And so these are kind of minimal, 20, 30-minute sessions that you can kind of built into the lease that, hey, every year, once a year, that every occupant of the building needs to go meet with the fire chief or its fire prevention officer and attend a brief training so that way they are maintaining the property as best that you can. So, and then the third part of this is that, you do what I would recommend to be a house doctor contract with some kind of handyman service, because the state sanitary code is serious. If you have an issue with your tenant and their kitchen isn't working, you need to provide them with alternative housing until you fix it. And you're already on the hook for that today. So you build that into, and that's why I said 11-month model. And something that I've learned in my experience is that if you build everything out on an 11-month model and you plan that for 1 month a year, you're not going to get rent. Reality is you find a good tenant, they're going to be there for multiple years. You're going to collect money 12 months of many years. But by planning for that 11-month model, what you do and what you gain is that when you have a unit turnover, it's going to cost you some money. When you have other costs that pop up, they're going to cost you money that maybe are outside of what you budgeted. And so by having that 11-month model, you kind of build in those things, those extra funds that you might need. And when your tenant leaves in 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, you've added again money so that way you have funds available to paint the unit over, for the turnover, do some upgrades most people do when they have a tenant change. So this is broadly what I recommend the direction for you guys to go in. And if you guys are interested, what I can do is continue to work with Adam Costa. We have a good lease model that we can provide to you guys at a future meeting. And I would ask for coordination and permission to be able to coordinate a site inspection of the property so that way we can start working on what this capital needs assessment is, so that in the future, if you guys are interested in this, I can come to you with some kind of rough idea of numbers. I can do the market analysis for you for what it's going to cost or what it would go, but I definitely need to get in there. So I'm offering free services to help you guys get this set up in what is a more professional, typical, standard kind of way, and also to make sure that you guys, as a commission, the town as an entity, is more properly covered. Massachusetts is a very generous state when it comes to tenants, and when you try to get a tenant to move on, they don't pay their rent. I've seen situations where tenants don't pay rent for 6 months, you're never to collect it. And so you really have to have a financial model that plans for the worst case. And then when you have the best case, all it does is provide more resources for the commission and all the properties that the community enjoys. So again, I do want to pause for a couple questions from you guys on this, but I am trying to grab
just
some dinner
emailed you.
here in a few minutes.
You did watch.
Thank you, Michael Ray. So that was a lot. I think I'm gonna have
That's
to
exactly
go
what I said.
back and
So, she just sent me the letter.
We have
hang on,
some.
Bill. I can mute Bill. There we go. All right. Yeah, it was just some bleed through. I don't think he knew his mic was still live. So yeah, so I'll go back and re-listen to that because that was a lot. But yeah, I definitely really welcome any ability you would have to give us some extra support on this, just because I do feel like having read the agreement, and also understanding somewhat of the history, Mike LaRouche has been kind of looking after that property kind of as a collateral duty, which is not trivial at all. But it does seem like we can do better there for the town. So thank you. Thank you for offering to help us. I do very much appreciate that. Mike, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, it's probably time to do check the heating system before we go into winter, as we've done in past years. And generally, we've charged that to the fund that we have accumulated in order to pay for that service. We have some minimal services like pest control that we're on kind of retainer. If we should need some help, we can always call them and they will come in. I'm not sure if we can utilize the resource of the town as the facilities department. Is that something that they can or willing to include as part of their umbrella? Or is Michael suggesting that we get another person to oversee that building and these kind of management tools that we would need to upgrade some of the systems in that house?
What I would suggest in that is I have to verify. I think that it would be outside the scope of Chris Ruth's job. The path ahead, and I offer it. You guys can always appoint me to be your designated assistant in this effort, and until we kind of work through all these details. But a comment is, you guys have an obligation by law to provide monthly pest control services to this property. It's not an on-call thing. And so, there is a need for someone with awareness of some of the obligations to be in the loop. I don't think that a management company would be worth it for you, really, for the sole kind of reason that it's going to cost you a lot of money. And then they're gonna take 10% off the top, and then they're gonna take a cut of every work that they coordinate for you. And you're gonna find it's gonna be 25-30% of the money that you're getting from the property is gonna be going to a management service. So my opinion in the way that most properties work well is it's really on the front end. If you have a good model, you have a good lease, that oftentimes, you know, that you have a tenant and it kind of runs itself. I can coordinate with Chris Ruth and the town manager to see kind of what Chris Ruth's role could be here. You know, but to get this kind of going, I would recommend that you have me kind of work with the town council to kind of figure out what this plan would look like.
At what point do we involve the current tenant? At this point, before we start and putting in a new plan for this property?
Yeah, you know, tenant and housing relationship, it's always first emotional. You know, people get attached to properties, and then also, you know, it's where someone resides. You know, as a landlord, it's a business relationship. You have a license agreement. There's no entitlement for anyone to be there beyond a 30-day notice to vacate. And that's just where you're at. And so, you know, if you move into a different model and you find that maybe the tenant you currently have, that it may not work for them, then, you know, that's a decision that the Conservation Commission can make. I think what I'm suggesting is providing you with an ideal model to manage the property and to better support the Conservation Commission. You know, if the Conservation Commission's idea is that you like the tenant you have, you want to work with the tenant that you have, and you don't want to expose them to any kind of cost increases, and that, you know, that becomes more of a mission type property where it's not about maintaining the property as much as it's about supporting an individual. And if that's what the Conservation Commission chooses to do, then you can. But you know, I typically would support that if you don't already have that as your general charge of providing that kind of mission-based housing, that you utilize the property in a way to generate income and maintain the property for the conservation properties around town.
That's consistent with my understanding of the mission, and the intent of the property, for me personally. Mike, any other questions?
That's all I have.
All right, great. Questions or comments from other commissioners? And I'm seeing none.
Is there interest, Marion, in me providing assistance to the town, to the Conservation Commission in this way?
Yeah, hang on, Rich Bursch just raised his hand. Rich,
There we go. Didn't make the unmute button too small. I was gonna suggest that we take Michael Ray up on his generous offer to act as liaison in setting up a plan and working with the town attorney.
okay, we have a
Then we
motion by
can-
Rich Bursch.
Then once we have at least a draft plan that Michael Ray has worked on, then we can figure out the next step.
I think that sounds good to me. Do we have a second to that motion on the floor?
Second,
Second by Jenny. Roll call vote, Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
I
Jenny,
aye.
and a very enthusiastic aye for myself.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you to the members of the Conservation Commission for your time. So I'll follow up with town council, with Chris, town manager, and I'll commit to having some kind of draft plan to you by the end of January.
Oh, thank you so much. That sounds really lovely, Michael Ray. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for putting this proposal in front of us. And have a nice dinner.
All right, thank you.
Okay, moving along. Continued public hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a hearing on a notice of intent by DNA Lunenburg LLC for construction of a stormwater management system within the 50 and 100-foot buffer zone, but outside of the 30-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland located at Electric Ave and Pierce Avenue. Do we have Do we have the applicant and or their representatives here with us tonight?
You do, it's me again.
Hi, Bill. Very good. All right, so do you want to just take us through this project plan?
Let me just bring one more thing up. All right. So for the record, Bill Hannigan with Hannigan Engineering. We're here regarding a notice of intent filed for the construction associated with the site and drainage improvements made to the property, which is adjacent to the existing Il Forno restaurant on Electric Ave in Lunenburg. We are also going in front of planning board for this. As part of that review, Jeff Walsh from Graves Engineering is doing a full review of the stormwater management, which he has not completed at this point in time. So I imagine there may be questions from that. So we're not anticipating closing the hearing tonight, but we just kind of wanted to touch base and then go through everything at least one time, and then from there, hopefully have that information back from him and be able to finish with the planning board and finish with the commission at the same time. So the basic concept right now is, I'm sure many of you have been up there, the parking lot that they have is very, very tight. They have purchased the land across the street. This is Pierce Avenue. So they've purchased that land, which extends back pretty far. And I'll go back to this. So there's the zoning line, and here's the rest of the land back in here. This is the limit of wetlands on the property that was delineated by Chuck Karen. We have the two buffer zones for no build and no touch, and along with the buffer zone for the 100-foot buffer zone. So the limit of work within the buffer zone is really the drainage basin that we have to build on the project for the overall development. There is an existing drainage channel that comes down this area. That area was reviewed and found not to be wetlands. So this piping system that's being built here will just drain into that channel down to the same wetlands. There was a full drainage analysis report, stormwater management assessment on the property, and that was that, like I said, is under review with through the planning department. So we don't have that back yet, but the intent is to provide a compliant stormwater management system, both under the Lunenburg regulations and the DEP stormwater management regulations. So we need, from the planning board, we need site plan review, and we need a stormwater management permit. And from conservation, we need an order of conditions for the work within the buffer zone. So in summary, they're going to rebuild the parking lot in front of the main building. They're actually going to take some of it away to put the parking in compliance and put the parking on the property, because a lot of it extends over the property line right now. So this is going to be an improvement with some green space in front of the building and some parking that will be reoriented around the site. The existing parking on the side of the building will remain as it is. We'll be putting a crosswalk in this location and some limited sidewalk provisions in here. And then let me zoom in on this a little bit to make it a little bit easier. So there'll be a crosswalk with a sidewalk that will basically come across along the length of this main parking lot, and this will provide them with enough parking that they really need for the use that they have in the building right now. So that's the first part of it. The second part is that there's a proposed retail office building that would be constructed that would have its own separate parking lot off of Electric Avenue, and then the The stormwater system would then drain to a dry detention basin in this location here with some of the stormwater flows coming from each of the parking lot. And then on the second page, the roof drain and one piece of the parking from this area here would go down into a grass line swale to an infiltration basin down in this location here. Another set of piping from the detention basin would be outflowing here down to this channel that eventually gets to the wetlands. So the drainage analysis report once again shows that the peak rates of runoff are mitigated. It is partial redevelopment on the project, but I believe that this, and I'd have to check in detail, but I believe that the project meets the stormwater management requirements. Chris Anderson did most of the work on this one. There is a availability for building lots in here. The drainage system has been designed to accommodate the three building houses that would be built in this area, along with their driveways and impervious areas and change in land use associated with that. So we've kind of thought ahead about getting that into the drainage system, so the calculations are appropriate for that in the future. But we're not proposing that work right now. So DEP sent out some comments, which we've taken a stab at reviewing them initially. The first comment was there were really only 3 comments. The first comment was about the TSS worksheet, that it talks that the treatment trains include water quality units. The water quality units are within the drainage calculations, but they're not properly depicted on the plans. So we're going to update the plans to actually call out which structures have water quality units in them, so that the contractor will know which ones to buy. The specifications for each of the water quality units is included in a detail sheet, but it's just not didn't get translated to the table of drainage structures or to the plan itself. So that'll be added to the plan set. They've also asked for an additional TSS worksheet for the treatment train labeled DMH2. If I go back to this here is the treatment DMH2 is right here. So the treatment train would include this runoff and any overland flow and paved flow that goes to this catch basin. There would be another water quality unit here, and then that would include the swale down to the infiltration basin. So that treatment train was inadvertently omitted from the drainage report. That will be added to that as part of the revisions. We're also, like I said, we're anticipating some revisions from Jeff Walsh's review. So we're going to try to wrap all these into one package and get everything circulated. Comment number 2 was regarding the rainfall intensities and the published rainfall data sheets for location. We did use the published rainfall data for this project based upon the NRCC calculations, which are more advanced. It also talks about the soil mapping for the area, that was there's a figure within the report that says Figure 1 soil maps, and the soil maps were not included in the scan. So we can add that information back into that. But that information was relied on for the drainage analysis, along with conformational soil testing that we did to confirm the elevation of the seasonal high water table in each of the basins and in the different areas throughout the site. So then there was one area that was the applicant should clarify. This statement right here is clarifying what the brush conditions are that are on the site. And we talk about brush conditions within the narrative, but we don't cite any brush conditions within the actual analysis. So I need to go over that with Chris and determine whether there are areas that were anticipated being brush that should be changed over within the analysis, or whether the narrative just spoke in generalities, which is what my gut feeling is that's what he was talking about. But those may have fallen within a wooded area that had underlying brush areas within the wooding area. So I think that might be what that's about. So we'll take a look at that and go through that. The last comment was provide profile details for each stormwater basin to include location of groundwater levels in relation to the bottom of the basins. That is actually shown on the plans. Each of the test pits that we dug within the basin areas shows the elevation of the estimated seasonal water table, and the basins are in fact above that above those elevations. So that actually is in compliance. And then the O&M plan, there's a dry detention basin, which is the detention basin towards the front of the site. This detention basin right in here, and we need to add a maintenance section for that, along with pricing or cost estimate of what it's going to cost to maintain that to the drainage, and that's this table right here. We have the different units. We have the infiltration basin, but we don't have the drainage basin, so we'll add that to that as well. So those are pretty much the comments for now. As I stated, most of the work that is in the buffer zone is really related to this grading and this drainage system. When we do go back to build a house on this particular lot, whether, wherever it may be, we would have to file a separate notice of intent for that work, because that work is not included within this filing. So that would be a separate notice of intent that would be filed, but the impacts from that are included within the overall analysis for the stormwater system for the whole project, as part of what we did in the drainage analysis. So I have a couple questions that you might have. We can kind of go through them real quick. But we are, as I stated, we are anticipating requesting a continuance for this project.
Bill, on your, I'm primarily interested in the jurisdictional area, right? Which would be, towards the western side of this parcel? Yeah. What brush cover, tree cover is going to remain, and what is going to be impacted in this proposed plan?
Well, under this plan right now, this is the limit of our work. Well, actually, this is the limit of our work because this is going to remain the same, but we do have impacts that are going to be happening in here, which we've included for the purpose of the drainage analysis, but not for the purposes of the notice of intent. Okay, so maybe we could do is provide you with an overlay plan that shows where those areas are, so you get a better feel of it. But the building, for example, would be outside the no build zone. And so most of the work would be up in this area here, and then this is a no touch zone, so we wouldn't touch that area there. We haven't developed those plans because of the fact that
Right, and I'm not really asking you to talk to me about a plan that's not in front of us. It just wasn't clear to me from looking at what you have here, where the limit of work was.
the
And
limit
so
of work is basically around this area here, like this.
okay.
Okay, and then I believe that there's some grading for a berm along in here. I can zoom in. Yep, limited disturbance, you can see. We have erosion
Okay,
control
yeah.
placed here,
Now I
erosion
can
control
see
around
it.
here. Yeah. Okay, and then the erosion control comes in this way. So we have erosion control around all the areas that would, will be disturbing this area, but we'll be basically building a berm in that area to basically kind of push the water in the direction we want it to go as part of the drainage system. Okay.
Okay. Now, with that ditch, that existing drainage ditch,
Yep.
very
here.
interesting. There's no work proposed around in there.
Not in this filing, no.
One of the things that I had noticed when I was out there walking the site this weekend is that the northernmost, where's north on this?
North is,
Okay, so the northwest, kind of the line goes northwest, right?
Yeah.
On the northwest side of the berm, for the drainage ditch, it looks like it's a lot of trash
yeah,
that's been built up into there, and so I wondered if that's just going to remain untouched, kind of.
we can
this
clean that up
area.
as part of this. I don't think there'll be any problem with you adding that as a condition, to clean up the trash in the existing drainage ditch.
Yeah.
And I think there may even be some trash areas along the outside of that as well. So this is an area this is the old, apparently the old, like I think it was part of the old F&L railway through this.
Mhm.
It's like a railroad bed through this area here. So that's kind of littered with different things. He wants to clean it up anyways as part of what we're doing, but we kind of told him we don't want him to touch anything until we get done the process because we don't want him to get himself in trouble.
Yeah. So let's see here. I'm gonna try to, oh, it's not gonna let me do it. Can you see? You can't see my mouse
No.
on this. It's not as interactive as the ones that I use during my day job. where your mouse is, if you go up on the page to where it's dark green, and then follow that dark green along to the left, right?
Mhm.
Come into the, all of that berm right there appears to just be trash, like all kinds of trash with dirt mixed in, and cinder blocks and construction trash with dirt mixed in. And so that was specifically
area.
what I was,
Okay,
yeah,
I thought you were talking
thinking of.
back in here.
Yeah, we were kind of talking around each other. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so that was kind of my question. And it might be better if it's left undisturbed. But it was something that I certainly had noticed when I was out there.
Is there, I mean, based upon the survey, it appears there must be, larger trees and woodland type cover in that area.
There
Uh,
is definitely, and it's pushed all in between. And I'm not asking for you to do anything. I just wanted to know what the intent was there.
I think,
That's all.
maybe not part of this project that would
Mhm.
be cleaned up, but I'm sure as part of the, putting, I think the plan is for 3 single-family houses here. I think as part of that plan, this would get cleaned up significantly. And then most
Okay.
likely maintained by the landowners at that point in time.
Okay. Thank you for entertaining that question. Rich has his hand raised. Rich?
Oh, hold on. Am I unmuted? Yes,
You
I am.
are.
Yes.
So it's not in our jurisdiction. Are they planning to do the parking lot and the commercial building at the same time?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay.
Yep.
I just noticed that they didn't have the same entrances or any of that, so.
Yeah, I mean, the intent, well, let me say this, I believe the intent is to build this one first and then build this one. I mean, it's, it's not gonna be, they already have the desire to rent this out. They have interest in it already. So, so the idea would be to try to, I don't know exactly what his plan is. I think we'll probably find more out as we get through the process. So, but I know he wants to build the parking lot for the restaurant as soon as possible. He may do both at the same time. To me, it makes sense to prep the whole site at the same time, even if he doesn't build a build yet. And then he can
Okay,
come
that's
back
kind of
and-
where I was
Yeah.
going. I wanted
Yeah.
to see if you were doing all of the wetland build out, even if
Right.
they don't do the retail building right away.
Yeah, so I think what we can do is we can, between now and the next meeting, we can kind of take a look at, I understand your question, because what your question is this going to get built first and then this not going to get built for a couple of years? Okay. So it looks to me like the only thing really draining into this is this section right here. So I can talk to Chris about whether the overland flow from this area here is intended to go, looks like it's going to go this way anyways. So it may be that we don't need to build all of this until we're ready to build this. But once we start building from my perspective, from a construction management perspective, once we start building this parking lot, you got the site guys out there already. This sewer line has to come across here, so you're already kind of working in that area. You have to build this basin anyways to have the availability of drainage for this one. So this will get built. So I mean, it almost makes sense to have all the infrastructure in place, at least to this point, before you start building this area out. And then from there, if they finish this basin and they finish this parking lot and they don't start the construction on this part of the site, all the infrastructure that is, there's really only 2 structures left to be put in and a roof drain. So from my perspective, I think it makes sense to put this stuff in probably up to the zoning line and then wait. And then when they go to build this, that's when they would build the rest of the stuff heading to the back. I think that would make sense to me.
Okay.
Bill, where are the erosion controls going to be placed?
And I zoomed in, you saw them.
Yeah, right at the limit of work.
Right, the
Yeah,
limit of work. And
That's
what
the road
is,
control.
oh, okay. What is the straw wattle and a silt fence?
I
Okay,
believe so, yeah.
very good. Yeah, I just said it, that note that you had zoomed in on,
Okay.
said what it was.
All right.
Do we have any other questions from members of the commission? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Do we have any questions, comments from members of the public? Okay, Bill, I think you said that you were asking for a continuation. Do you
Yeah, I
know?
think it makes sense to let us get the peer review done, because if there are changes to the plan, then we can bring back and give you a revised plan that you can
Mhm.
vote on, and then that revised plan will be the same plan for both planning and conservation. I think that makes the most sense.
Okay, and so what date do you think we should be shooting for in terms of continuation? Our next meeting is the what, the 18th? Yeah. And then, or do you think it's more January?
I think what we can do is let me just maybe we continue to the 18th, and if we don't have everything back by then, we can
Ask for a continuation
ask
just
for
ahead of the
continuation
meeting
at
or,
that point. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
so
That would
we
be,
can do
yeah,
that.
and honestly, you can just notify Sophia,
Yep.
by the 16th or 17th, right? And then even though we've have you on the agenda, we can just announce the continuation to, and our meetings in January are gonna be off cycle. They'll be on the 18th and the, uh, 18th and what, 22nd? Is that right, Sophia? I think that's right.
Well, you got one of them right. It would be the 22nd and the 8th
8th and the
instead of
8th, yeah.
18th.
Yeah, I was looking at 8th. Oh, so the 8th and the 22nd, okay. But we will, we have a request from the applicant to continue this to December 18th. Do I have a motion from the commission?
So moved, Mike?
Thank you, Mike.
Second,
Thank you, Jenny. Roll call vote, Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
aye.
and I for myself. Thank you, Bill.
So just to check on the January meetings, it's the 8th and the 22nd?
That's correct.
Okay,
Very good.
thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you. Moving along. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, public hearing on an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation by Kevin O'Brien at 390 Howard Street. And do we have Mr. O'Brien and or his representative here with us tonight?
Yes, Mr. O'Brien is here. Good evening, Madam
you.
Chair, members. For the record, my name is Kevin O'Brien. I'm going to ask for a continuance till the next meeting, seeing we just got the plans from Haley Ward. They were just sent over to Chuck. I think I sent them either today or yesterday. They picked up all the new delineation that Chuck and Art Allen had gone over and gone out on the site. So we don't have anything to give you right now until Chuck reviews those and gets them together and puts them into you.
Okay. Now I did have an opportunity to walk on the property again on Saturday.
I
And
think you got
uh,
I think you got the opportunity to walk on a lot of proproperties this weekend, from what I'm
I
hearing.
did. It was a
Did you
very
step-
long day. But anyway, yeah, and noticed all of the new flagging and whatnot. I did there are a lot of wetlands, new wetlands flagged, and I didn't notice that there was a lot of new erosion controls in place to protect those wetlands.
They were.
So in the areas that I went in, which historically it seemed like most of the missing erosion controls were on the western side of the property down the slope. And I didn't see wetland controls in those areas. So that I actually thought was an issue that we had addressed with you before. and that you had corrected. Is that a misunderstanding or what's
No, I
happening
think we,
there?
I think we did the areas that were requested of us, so.
Okay, and Sophia and Chris went out on Monday afternoon, and I think Sophia, you said you had actually found some areas where it appeared that siltation was flowing into wetlands or flagged areas. Did I understand you properly?
Um, there were a couple places and we went out again. It was Monday and today as well. Both
Mhm.
separate areas, and there were some locations that we discovered that probably should be attended to. And then there were some large rocks that were put up towards the top of the start of the slope, which was good, but I think there's still a lot more work to do in certain areas on the property.
Do you have photos that you can share with us or a map that maybe
Yep.
would help us help Kevin understand where we're concerned?
Yeah, I'll do my best to show both. So here's the property. Let me orient myself. This is where I think this is where you come in.
Correct.
Usually we park over here. So Monday we walked a couple different ways down here. And this is where it starts getting really aggressive, and we noticed that Kevin put some new refreshed, I guess you could call them like some sort of erosion dam
Check dams or something, yeah.
all the way down, and then I don't know what you'd call this, but it's like a basin that catches a lot, the majority of the runoff that's happening. But it's still bypassing that because it's not deep enough. And this is kind of eroded away and it's just bypassing around and continuing down here. So if that's not addressed, all these checkpoints up here are kind of in vain because it just pools here and then overflows and continues down. And then there are, I believe there were wetlands over here that the siltation was going into.
Hang
and
on, slow down for a minute because there's
Yep.
like a delay, right?
Oh, there
So
is. Okay.
where, yes, so
Sorry.
it's just flickering one way. So where are the wetlands that you're kind of identifying?
Let's see. I believe in this general location, and that was quite some time ago that I knew they were there. Chris St. Germain was with me, and they were going down into that area where the wetlands are flagged previously. Now slowly panning up this way. Another location that we have not gone to until recently this week was another area of concern, which was this kind of intersection here,
Mm-hmm.
where it kind of mirrors the same exact thing as what was going on north from here, where all this open land, it just starts to funnel and create another crevasse-like channel that runs down. And there are the newer wetland flags along in here in which the sediment goes directly through those flags. So not only within the buffer zone, but within the flags themselves. And then furthermore, today we parked here and walked in. As you can kind of see, other various areas of sediment eroding down this way, down gradient into this location, and another one over here, and they're just kind of trailing off directly into this pond here. Now I noticed that there were very, very fresh straw wattles and silt fences, put a silt fence putting up over here. However, it does not follow the wetland delineation flags. In fact, it goes through the wetland itself, which is not properly installed. So that's a concern there. I do have photos, and maybe while I share the photos, Chris can have more input.
Yeah, just basically echoing what Sophia said. So as we were walking down, I had never gone that far down that particular area, and we found some significant erosion. Like she said, it mirrors the original one, where it's a very steep downhill, and it just carries everything all the way down. So that needs to be addressed. I find the property a little overwhelming in terms of, you know, trying to address issues. There's just a lot. Not really sure. I feel like I need more education in order to. I wish I was out there with the Ecotech folks. I would like to have a real expert out there to help me understand what can be done. I feel there's a lot of the issues are tough because there's so much missing forestation, and since the project hasn't started, the issues are just, you know, exponential.
Thank you, Chris. Sophia, why don't you narrate us through these photos?
So this is the most recent erosion control. You could just tell it was really fresh, and there were still plastic ties left on the ground. But this runs straight through that pond area. I would say the wetland flagging, the blue flags, were probably like 20 feet to the left over here. So completely way off of where they're supposed to be. And I did notice on the opposite side of this silt fence, there was siltation in there already. So unfortunately, the damage is already done. And this is just a different view. Let's go this way. And we'll just work in reverse. And this is upgrading of that area. It's the open area, and then it just trails down. This is some of that new blue flagging that you mentioned. This is a remnants of a silt fence that was once there. Obviously hasn't been maintained since it was installed. And in the background, there's a pond in the neighbor's property.
Can you determine where that picture's? I mean, it's a 200-acre site, and you're showing a picture.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I remember when we went out there, yourself, myself, Chuck, and one of the members. I'm sorry, I forget who it was. It might have been Chris. And we went out there, and one of the things we talked about was, you know, this keeps sitting and it just keeps eroding more and more. I mean, these areas that were dug out before in anticipation of eventually putting roads in, unfortunately, I've kind of screwed myself now because they're wetlands now, in roadways. Where you started off when you started going down the hill out back, and you showed that area, let's say it's a little, what I think you called it, maybe a pond, and then it goes around that, and it goes down the road, and it goes out towards that little finger of wetlands that abuts the, I believe it's Brackett's property. It had shown some erosion, but I thought out in the field, we had determined that was probably a couple of years ago. Because if you look down that road, there's erosion of about in some places it's 3 feet deep. So we know it's not sheeting off and going off onto the lot and out towards that neighboring property. I think that was pretty much resolved. I thought it was pretty much resolved when we were out there. When I left there that day, we were of the opinion that I was gonna go out and put the rocks in that, slow that trench out in the back to slow the flow. That's been the enforcement order that I've had on here for months. And I don't know if this is, you know, if we can get rid of the enforcement order, because there's nothing, it's not even near any wetlands. Everything you've asked me to do, the board has asked me to do, I've done. I just assume go out there and build the thing. But this just keeps dragging and dragging, and I'm not blaming you guys. I mean, it's been my issue because I haven't been able to get my engineers out there to pick up the flags. The siltation fence and everything that Sophie was just showing us is out in the front, which is the roadway coming in. I believe Chuck did the delineation, and then he said, you know, we should probably put the silt fence and the erosion control up, which we did. And now it's not in the right place because Art went out there afterwards and reflagged it again. So if it's something that we're gonna have to move, by all means, we're gonna have to move it. But I'm not gonna go out there and do anything until, quite frankly, I get blessed by the board.
Sophia, I think we're still waiting on you to show us where that area was.
Yep. It's I believe it's somewhere in this area between this road and one of these properties. Might be like in the triangle here, either in front of this property, in front of this property. It's really hard to tell because it's so small and it's not showing up in the DEP layers. But it exists.
Okay, well, that gives Kevin a general vicinity area. And that answers your question about where that failed silt fencing was, Kevin?
Well, there's no silt fence down there, Madam Chair. Because there was no wetlands there. If you look at these houses, those houses that were on the last picture, and you keep going up that road, there was a finger of wetland up there, the old
Yeah.
wetland.
So Sophia's showing wetland delineation flags and what appears to be silt fencing that's fallen down.
Where is that, Sophia?
In the area that I previously shared on the screen. I also put a neon flagging.
Even better.
Just in case somebody wanted to go out and reference one of the locations, because actually this runs along kind of in two spots that I've noticed along the left side of that road. But I did mark with a flag specifically where you can just turn and look to your left and you can see more silt fencing. It's very buried, so I'm assuming it's been there for quite some time.
I'm assuming you, from looking at the picture, that you put the flags up, the neon flags up after you took the picture?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I'm gonna ask for an extension until the next meeting. What I would like to do is go out there and maybe even video it myself and just get an idea what it looks like. Fortunately, we haven't had a hell of a lot of rain. But I'd like to see where, I mean, I can see the silt fence laying down too. If there's something that needs to be addressed, I think I would like to talk to the board at the next meeting and decide what we should do, and hopefully we can get that delineation resolved at the next meeting.
Okay. And Kevin, you're clear that all of the delineated wetlands are supposed to be protected from any type of silt incursion, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Chris, you have your hand up?
Yeah.
In all fairness, I just got a copy of the plan too, so now I'm seeing it I don't
Yeah,
go out there every day. I don't live out there. I live a little ways away. So,
Yeah, I just wanted to orientate Kevin on where Sophia was talking about. So Kevin, when you and I, Sophia and Chuck walked that road, and there was we called it the gorge. It's down that way. So if you keep going towards Howard Street, you'll find Sophia's neon ribbon.
so Sophia, can you put the whole plan up again, please? So where she's pointing to those two houses, which used to be the Lottie brothers, that's not where it is. It's down the very first road that abuts it's not here. Those two houses are the Lottie boys. I think only one of them lives there now. So you're talking, keep going down to your left, please.
Most western, Chris, are you talking about the most western road that's shown on the plan?
Yes, I believe Sophia, didn't you tag that neon one on the most western road when we were walking?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not here where your pointer is. It's if you keep going up the road where you're going now, out to the back.
Yeah. It's further to your left.
Yeah.
Left. It's yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There. Yeah. Somewhere on that particular walk.
That's
So-
where I would have thought. That's why
Yeah.
when she was saying over near the Lotties, I can't, because I've
Yeah.
looked at that and I didn't see any erosion over there. So it's further out. It's further out where we walked down when we got our steps in that day, when we walked
Correct.
all the way down that gully in the back, and then we
Yes.
stopped and took a left and went
Correct.
down onto the right-hand side. That's where you're talking.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's helps. Madam Chair, I'm all good with the location of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions or comments from other members of the commission? Questions or comments from any members of the public? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to continue to December 18th.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. Okay, we'll see you again on the 18th.
You will.
Yeah, and hopefully you could get those drawings to us as soon as you've reviewed them and approved them to give us a chance to get out there with the renewed drawings as well.
Okay. Yeah, I've got them to Chuck, so I'll check with Chuck again tomorrow and see that he got them instead of just relying hopefully on him getting them. I'll just make sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, moving along. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing to reissue orders of conditions for a notice of intent by Greg Roy of Dillison Roy on behalf of John and Kathy Beal for the construction of addition on an existing dwelling, porch, deck extension, driveway, and addition of a retaining wall. Proposed changes span the 30, 50, and 100 foot buffer zones of Hickory Hills Lake located at 12 Horizon Island. Do we have the applicant and or their representative here with us tonight?
Madam Chair, Greg Roy with Dillison Roy. I am here with at least Kathy and or John is with us as well, the applicants. And I apologize. I know it's already a lengthy meeting, but I have to give the commission a little bit of a history lesson on this one because this is a little bit of an odd case. On or about the end of January 2022, we filed a notice of intent. It could have been sometime in the beginning of February. We filed a notice of intent for essentially the plan. Actually, can I share my screen? Madam
Yes,
Chair?
please, Greg.
Acceptable. Okay, let me do that. That'll make life a little easier here. Bear with me.
I'm visual. It always makes my life easier when
Yeah.
there's a drawing.
Yeah, hold on. I put the cart before the horse again. Okay, so let me zoom in here a little. On or about the end of January or beginning of February 2022, so almost 3 years ago, we filed a notice of intent, which included the work that was shown on this plan that's in front of you, essentially. The major portions of it included a building addition on the northerly side of the building, some changes to the existing driveway, some the proposed addition of a porch and some modifications to the deck. Also some a proposed shed that we had up here behind the house. And then we also proposed at the time some improvements to the lake shore. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but I'm trying to give you a picture. I believe that the commission opened the hearing on March 2nd, 2022. And the reason why I say I believe is because we have now looked for we cannot locate the order of conditions for this project. Okay, so I have a memory of being before the commission. I have a memory of the commission opening the meeting, closing the meeting. It was on a Zoom call. It was post-COVID. But March 2nd is not listed on the website as having even an agenda, minutes, and it's not on YouTube. But pulling forensics in my office, I went back to time cards, and I see that I had a time card entry on my time card of prepare for and attend Conservation Commission meeting on March 2nd. So I'm pretty sure that is the night that the commission heard this and actually closed the meeting and voted to issue an order of conditions. We just don't have the paperwork for it. So if you fast forward, the Beals actually hired a contractor. They have now constructed the addition. They got the building permit. So one of your staff members, I cannot remember for the life of me who that was. I think this was after Matt Morrow had left. One of the staff members signed off on the building application.
I'm certain it was Nadia.
I think you're right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it was Nadia. And I'm not passing any blame here. I'm just trying to give you a history lesson. The work is completely done on the house. So all of the additions are done. Certificate of occupancies have been issued probably a year ago. So quite a while ago. Fast forward to 2 months ago, John and Kathy contacted me because they wanted to. So one more thing to say. In the meeting when you reviewed this, the commission had some questions relative and some issues with what we were proposing to do, the modifications that we were proposing along the lake shore. And so for the purposes of expediency, in that meeting, we asked the commission we essentially withdrew all of the proposed work that we were going to do at the lake. So the order of conditions that was voted on at that meeting was only the work associated with the building, the driveway, and the proposed building additions in the shed. It did not include any of the work by the water in the lake shore. So fast forward now to about 2 months ago, the Beals contacted us because they wanted to revisit the work along the lake. We wanted to take the comments that the commission had given us and see if we could come up with a plan for doing some reworking of the existing lakeshore walls in the beach area. And so what we decided we would do is to file an amended order of conditions since we had not closed out the order. It's still in effect. It's still valid. So we decided we would submit to you a red line plan and ask for an amended order of conditions for the work. In doing so, that is when we indeed discovered that nobody, including your staff, the Registry of Deeds, my office, or the Beals, has a copy of the order of conditions. I think that the Beals were assisted by your staff for a period of time, and no one can locate the order of conditions. So we're in a little bit of a conundrum here, because not only is it an issue with respect to asking you for an amended order of conditions, in the future, when we have to ask you for a certificate of compliance, we're also going to have an issue if we don't have an order of conditions with respect to compare the work that was done. So we thought the best course of action would be to effectively pretend the hearing was not closed and get on your agenda this evening. Because so long of a period has gone by, we re-notified the abutters as if it were a new hearing, which we did 2 weeks ago in advance of this. But that's what we're doing this evening. That's why it's under your continued hearings. We really want to do two things tonight. First and foremost, we'd like to ask you to issue the order of conditions formally, so that we can have a formal order of conditions document that was, that covers the work that was proposed. And secondly, we would like to discuss with you the proposed modifications that the Beals are looking to do at the lake. With rework, they essentially want to rebuild the existing retaining walls at the lake and revitalize the beach area that exists at the lake. So that was a mouthful. I see that there's at least one hand raised, so I'm happy to stop there, Madam Chair, and take any questions.
Thank you, Greg. And I'll just say too, this happened before my time on the commission. But I do definitely remember being out on a site walk with Nadia Madden. When the conservation administrators used to walk with the commissioners on Saturday site walks. And we were in a local vicinity, and she actually brought me over to this property and talked to me about the work that had been proposed and how it was being implemented and what was still left to do. So I would imagine, I based on that somewhere there had been an order of conditions, draft or something for Nadia to read, to have that kind of in-depth kind of information, because it also happened before her time, right? But unfortunately seems to have been lost. Anyway, it is what it is. It's not the first time. It probably won't be the last.
I found it.
Oh, did you find it,
I believe so.
Chris?
Yes.
Well,
Wow.
that's fantastic, Chris.
Where did you find it, Chris?
I searched the SharePoint and I just searched for 12 Horizon and look for files. Let me share my screen and see if this is what we're looking for.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me drop off. Sorry. That could sure make this easier.
There's no signatures, but this is the order of conditions. It's not signed or anything. I don't know. Not sure.
So I'm guessing it just was never. I'm guessing it was closed, and then it's just one of those things that just never got signed.
Yeah.
And
But I believe this is it. So if this helps.
that does help a lot. So you can see right there, the date of the public hearing closed 3/22. Yeah, 3/2/22. So that's what we were
Right.
suspected.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how to raise my hand. This is Kathy Beal.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, this form was in the 12 Horizon Island Road file in the office. When I
Oh.
met with Maddie, we found this. but we can't
Oh.
find anything that's signed and nothing that
Right.
was filed.
Right.
But I saw a copy of this. This piece of paper is in the file in your office.
Oh,
The original
that's
one.
good. Kathy, I didn't realize that was the case.
Oh, yeah, when I emailed you, I thought I explained that
All right, yeah.
while you were
no,
away.
maybe
You were
did.
away, though.
Maybe you did and I just didn't catch it. But either way, it's not issued. And so I think that
Right.
this process would be the correct way to resolve it.
Well, let's hear from Rich Bursch. He has his hand up.
Yeah, you won't find a signed copy from 2022. We were using DocuSign.
Okay.
So that's why it doesn't have any signatures on it. Then do we have access to the DocuSigns from 2022?
I have been told that we do. Sophie?
Okay,
We do, and I looked through the DocuSigns and I didn't find any. All those DocuSigns were transferred over when IT was helping with me with that, and I scanned through them.
okay.
That's
But
why
the-
we're here today.
So I guess, I'm asking for like I said, I'm asking for two things. I don't want to interrupt, Madam Chair, but having that document actually makes, I think, the first half of my ask a lot easier. I'm just asking, I think, for you to make a motion to reissue that order of conditions. I don't even care if you redate it. I just, but to issue that order of conditions, sign it, and so we can get a copy of it ASAP.
Okay.
And then
I understand that ask.
And then I want to ask to amend it. But so that's kind of the thought process.
Do we have to go through the formality of signing it once from the original and then amending it? Can't we just
Well,
issue one that includes the amended scope of work?
I think you can, in my opinion, you can, because effectively you haven't issued the order.
Mhm.
So what we've essentially done today is we're treating this like a continued public hearing. And I've re-notified the abutters. So I think it's a meeting, it's a valid meeting. So I think you could consider the red line change that I have on my screen and just incorporate it into the order.
Oh, I'm
you
not looking
believe
at
it.
your screen right now.
Yeah, I stopped my share, but.
Okay. Yeah, so let's just pause right there. Is any member of the commission have a concern about the proposal to consider the unsigned order of conditions as valid, even though it wasn't signed, and then take on board the consideration of the amendment, that we'll consider?
I
Or
have
do you
no,
think?
I have no issue with that. I think that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, and then does anybody want to advocate for doing it a different way procedurally? And I'm not seeing any raised hands at all there either. So Greg, we're going to proceed
Okay.
with the proposal that you've outlined ahead of us.
Okay, so let me reshare and just briefly, again, I know it's late, I apologize. I appreciate you for sticking with me here. Let me just briefly go over what the Beals are proposing to do. And I think some of you were on site this weekend and maybe have a handle on this firsthand as well. But essentially, there's an existing beach area that's shown in this grayscale dot hatch area. It's degraded, but there's, it's a sand beach area nonetheless, and it's bounded by retaining walls that are shown in dark black here underneath the red line that kind of wrap all the way around. There's a staircase here, and then there's another retaining wall that wraps over here. Essentially, the Beals want to replace those walls with a modern a new naturalized stone rock wall. And so when we were here before you 2.5 years ago, we had a proposal where we wanted to actually, the objection, my recollection is the objection that the commission had was we were actually intending to raise the elevation of the existing concrete block wall by putting another course on top of it. and adding sand,
Mhm.
which would have effectively created a fill of a floodplain area. And there just wasn't a way to get around that. And rather than dance around that issue, we were up against the Beals. I think we're up against a construction schedule and possibly looking at losing a contractor if they didn't get moving. We just pulled the whole thing from the application. Now what we've done is revisited that, and I think we have a plan that meets the performance standards of the floodplain, the floodplain performance standards in the Wetlands Protection Act. What we're planning on doing is completely removing the existing retaining wall and actually moving it back. So giving some lake back. So we'd be constructing the new wall behind the existing concrete block wall, if you will. So there'd be a foot or two that would be that's currently the retaining wall that would now be given back to the lake. So we'd be creating all of that extra volume. The elevation of the sand of the sand beach area would effectively stay the same, but we'd be carving out some additional floodplain compensation area just by reshaping this wall slightly. And so this dot area would essentially be lowered from where it is now to the same elevation as the sand. So we'd be pulling out a modest amount of additional area here. And then the same thing over here when we redo this wall again behind the location of the existing timber. I think that's a timber wall. We would effectively lower the area right in this location here and add just a modest amount of additional sand there. The only thing different, we added a line here. I think it was identified on the site walk that it might be advantageous to put a line of boulders in this location to hold back and keep soil on the slope, to avoid soil migration down into the area. And then the granite steps, the steps would be replaced with a more natural product in a granite, a more naturalized and permanent step in granite steps right here, but in the same location as they are. And then, you can see here, we provided the floodplain compensation calculations. So we'd actually have a net increase in the floodplain storage under this plan, which again, I think is the significant issue that we had that we would have had to resolve, that we decided not to resolve under the first filing and just pull it. But at this point, we're kind of trying to take the torch and revisit that concern that was expressed, and we're hoping that this proposal addresses it.
So Greg, is the elevation of the boulder wall going to be the same as the existing wall?
Yeah, you can kind of see. Yeah, this doesn't do it really justice, but our intention is essentially keep things the same that we have that are there now with the sand. The sand's a little bit higher than that wall, so we're essentially looking to this kind of shows it. You got that existing block wall, and we'd be placing the boulders further back from the lake. So you'd be essentially carving out all of that area times however long the wall is to create that additional floodplain storage. All of the work we're proposing is actually within the floodplain, if you will. So this line up here, this dashed line, is the floodplain in cross section. If that answers, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that does answer that question. And then I see that you're pulling the wall closer to like that tree that's closest to the lake. Is that going to protect the roots?
This one here?
No, the one that's just below it. The
Below
one
it.
that's between the 14
Oh,
and
here,
14.
yes.
Yeah, in that corner.
Yeah, well,
it's
our intention is to keep the tree. We're not proposing any tree removal. So,
okay. So you're confident pulling that much soil around from the base of the tree is gonna still keep the tree healthy?
Yeah, and Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they are proposing to use Brett Ramsden for this work, a local stonemason. I think a lot of you are familiar with him. And he's real good at, working in these type of situations, particularly on the water, but also in areas where we're trying to protect vegetation and trees. So, you can kind of see we curve that around. The intention is to save the tree. So we
Excuse me,
want to
I did
compromise
raise
that.
my hand. Brett said the
I
trees
saw-
would be, I'm sorry, Brett did say the trees would be fine. And it is my understanding the wall might be a little bit higher. I don't think it'll be as much as a foot higher, but it's gonna be a little bit higher than what it was to allow at least a decent amount of sand on that beach, because as you could, when you were there at the site, the sand that was soaking wet and degraded was the same height as the wall where it was,
Existing wall.
the existing wall. I don't,
Kathy, apologies. I did see your hand raised. I was going to get to you.
I'm sorry,
That's the protocol that we observe here.
I'm sorry.
So I would have gotten to you. Okay, but is that all of your commentary?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, so the intent is to preserve the tree line
yes,
or
Yeah,
that tree.
No vegetation is being removed, correct, Kathy?
correct.
Right. All right, no, trees, shrubs, vegetation is being disturbed.
Okay. Those trees were kind of the only thing that was right in that immediate vicinity. Anyway, I just was concerned. It seemed like it was maybe like 3-foot diameter of soil that was currently around that tree. And so tightening up the wall against it, just concerned me a little bit. Okay. Do we have any questions by members of the commission? Questions or comments? Sophia, yes, please.
Greg, do you have a square feet for the land underwater that's going to be worked on, like the surface area?
No land underwater we're not actually working in the land underwater. We'll be removing the
Okay.
retaining wall that's right on the shore. But we will not be altering, we'll be adding land underwater, actually. That makes sense. So
Do we have to call out that square footage in the form?
actually, it's not even land underwater. We're showing the water surface. Well, when we shot the water surface elevation, we don't have a date on here. It was actually lower than the bottom of the wall. And we're going to be pulling that wall further back away from the lake.
Yeah, but there was definitely a water line on that existing block wall.
Yeah. So it depends on when our surveyors were out there shooting it, right?
Yeah.
So,
This is a bad year.
when the water's up in this area, right? And if this is land underwater, right in this location here, we'll essentially be extending that back further. So we'll actually be adding land underwater.
Okay, would you be working on the land side or on the drawdown lake side?
Mainly on the land side, we will have to pull out these retaining wall blocks. So there'll be some temporary disturbance there, but we don't expect that to be a very long process.
Okay. So from my understanding, and I've been learning about from DEP and working on the lakes. When I fill out those forms, part of that information is necessary, even though it's temporary in nature. If you are working at all, altering, whether you're adding or removing anything in that area, it's kind of just a thing that I need to put in to complete the form as a whole. So land underwater would be one of those things, square feet, and then obviously the banking, the length of that as well.
Yeah, I don't think we'd have bank here because it's an existing wall. So I don't think we'd have resource area that would meet the definition of bank. And I guess we could quantify, it's just difficult here because it's really not a disturbance in land underwater. But we could quantify that for you. We probably did not refill out the Form 3. So that's fair. And we can do that for you so that we make sure we have those metrics. I think that's what you're asking, Sophie, right? You want us to fill out the Form 3 where it has all the resource area and floodplain metrics and land underwater resource area metrics.
Yeah, exactly.
We can do that. We intended to have the information and, the plan speak for itself on that, but we could certainly fill out the form.
And Greg, is this work proposed to be done during lake drawdown?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I am not seeing any questions from members of the commission, so I think I'm looking for a proposal here, a motion.
So if it's Sophia, I don't want to.
Oh, actually, I'm not actually looking for a motion.
well-
I think I'm looking for a continuation. Sorry.
Well, I was going to
Late.
suggest,
Go ahead, Greg.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but if it's a formality here and you can see and you can see that the metrics are either temporary in nature or getting better on the land underwater front, we're overcompensating for the flood storage. And I believe that's the only resource area impacts that we would have. If it's just a formality of me getting you the numbers to document that, perhaps you'd be willing to close it and we can get you the formwork probably tomorrow, in advance of formally finalizing that order of conditions. If you feel that you need me to, do you need me to formalize those numbers before you act on it? That's your prerogative.
Thank you, Greg. Rich raised his hand, so I'll call on Rich.
Just a couple quick things. Number one, where technically they have not filed the order of conditions at the Registry of Deeds, none of this work should have proceeded. So I think I'd feel better myself if we got that over to Greg so they can file it with the Registry of Deeds before we issue anything else on the property. And the second thing is, and I'm still having a hard time with SharePoint, is this file that Greg's showing, do we have access to that?
We did send it over. I don't know if you have access to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sophia,
and just if I could address.
Hang
I
on,
could
let Sophia answer the question of where the documents filed.
Going back to our meeting materials to make sure.
I
Oh,
can't raise
it
my
wouldn't be in
hand.
SharePoint. It's in OpenGov, I believe.
This one isn't in OpenGov, but it's in the email that I sent out with the link to the folder with all of the 12 Horizon. Actually, the order of conditions that wasn't recorded is in that folder too.
Oh, it is in SharePoint. So if you go to the 12/4/2024 meeting, it's NOI 12 Horizon Island.
Okay, super.
1, 2.
And to address Rich's first comment about I think what Rich is saying is probably the right way to do it. I get it's a little bit more procedure here, but if it's possible for you folks to turn around that document, and just just get it DocuSigned, we'll get it recorded immediately, so that it's on record, and then you can formally amend it. I guess another way to look at it is what I suggested is just reissue it, using this new plan, But to Rich's point, most of the work that you that you
Yeah, it's all
approved back
done.
in 2022 is done. So,
Yeah.
um,
And I
So maybe-
don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but I would defer to a commissioner that does have a strong opinion about that. Kathy?
Yeah, this is John.
Oh, sorry, John.
That's okay. You got one, you got the other. We just to let you know, we have been in contact with Brett. We didn't call him until we had talked to Greg and we had done the search for the order of conditions. Because we don't like to pull the trigger too soon. He is gonna give us a quote by the end of the week. We have to do the work during drawdown for obvious reasons. So he's kind of scheduling us for January. So that's our planned schedule. They do wait for the lake's probably gonna come back up in the January, February timeframe. So we're looking forward to January.
yeah, and it's really only the real lower wall that that would be a problem. So you know, and it's not a very, pardon the pun, heavy lift here for Brett. I don't think it's a pretty small wall, so I don't think it's going to take him a long time. But so if he's going to be there in January, I think either strategy would work, provided we could get the order the signed order fairly quickly. It appears to be already drafted, so hopefully it's just a matter of getting some signatures on there. I might suggest we do those. Well, I'll let you guys do that however you want. Maybe you do those. Maybe you sign those the old-fashioned way.
That won't work
Okay. Well.
because there are commissioners that are not physically here right now.
Okay,
But if you
well,
wanted to
I was
wait
just-
until they physically came back into town,
Well, no, I'm not suggesting we delay it. I'm just saying if you
Yeah.
signed it the old-fashioned way, then the date isn't a problem. If you sign it using DocuSign, the date's going to say whenever you sign it.
yeah. Yep,
But,
I understand.
So, well, either way, it doesn't matter. We'll get it recorded as soon as we receive it, and then, you know, provided that's in time for the next meeting, we could be back
Yeah.
in the metrics that you're asking for.
Okay, so Rich, I acknowledge that you have a preference that we actually sign the existing order of conditions and get that filed with registries of deeds before we amend it. And I don't have any issue with that. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. But I do want to make certain that we're documenting the right stuff. Sophia, how quickly do you think we could get that if the commission approved it? The existing order of conditions tonight, how quickly do you think you could get that loaded into DocuSign? You think that's reasonable to have done tomorrow?
I could try my very best. It depends how many interruptions I have.
Mhm.
I mean, I
but
can do it
do
tonight,
know-
Corey, if you want. I have DocuSign.
I think I would have to like manually recreate it since we only have the physical copy and like a scanned PDF, and I can't create a Word like editable document because I don't have the capabilities. So I'd have to recreate it and then send it via DocuSign. And
So here's what I'd suggest, and again, you can take this or leave this, but if you send me the document, scanned, choppy, crappy looking document, I will fill out the form for you and send it to you so it's done. You can just cross-check it. I'll send it to you in Word.
Would that
Just to
help, Sophia?
Just to help
yeah,
clarify.
that would be extremely helpful.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get that done. We'll get that done as soon as we can tomorrow. We'll send it to you in an editable Word document. You can cross-check it yourself and save you some time.
Okay, so that leaves it up to the commission to do the signing.
Yeah.
But I will
Yeah,
need
and
I will need to get a copy. Someone will have to email me a copy of that. I don't have a copy of that. The scanned
Sophia, can you send a copy to him?
Yeah, I can do that.
Right.
Okay, excellent. So I think we need to take a formal vote now to approve the existing draft order of conditions that's in the SharePoint file.
So moved.
Thank you, Rich.
Second,
Thank you, Jenny. Roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Okay,
And
great.
then on the second matter, if you could get those Form 3 metrics over to Sophie, then we can take that up and continue that amendment on the next hearing. And if that's okay with you, we'd also need to vote on that continuation.
Yeah, well, we're amenable to that. We appreciate your consideration on this.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to continue the amendment to the December 18th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you, Chris. Roll call vote, Chris.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Thank you very much, everybody. I know that's a confusing one, so we appreciate you your willingness to work with us on that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and hopefully it'll be not as heavy a lift at the next meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good evening. Okay,
too.
moving along. And just as a heads up, we've got, we lose administration support at 10 o'clock. We have 15 minutes roughly to go. So we're going to have to prioritize our time. And some of that, I may actually, some administrative things I may do after Sophie drops off, but Sophie, what do we have in terms of certificates of compliance? Need to start at 57 Round Road.
Yep. So 57 Round Road, there were a couple things that were a little concerning. I don't think that this should be approved based off of what I've seen. So there was a previous driveway, or a driveway that exists currently that hasn't been removed, but it was part of the a whole plan approval that part of that would be removed and loomed and seeded. So that impervious area hasn't changed. DPW has reached out to myself on behalf of some work that they would like to do. In that area where the driveway hasn't been removed, there is like a pipe or a culvert that crosses the main road, and it runs from the pond through their property and out on the other side, I believe, near the lake. And you can visually see like the pavement collapsing because of the crushed or deteriorating culvert that's underneath. So they did express that they wanted to address that themselves because it's clearly a safety concern. However, where the plan involved the driveway being removed and loomed and seeded, and it hasn't been done, I wouldn't approve that the COC is actually completed.
And I don't recall from the DPW's letter if they had a estimated resolution date.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Okay, and is that the only issue that is keeping us from approving the certificate of compliance?
Yes, that would be the only concern.
Okay. Do we have those that parcel owner on the call with us tonight? See anybody raising their hand? Do we know if the parcel owner is trying to get this closed out because they have some kind of action that's pending it, like a sale or anything like that that's happening?
No, I don't believe there's any plan like that.
Okay. Okay, then I would recommend that we not, that we reject this and, follow up with, DPW to see when their plan is for, fixing that, culvert, because, I mean, what they're, if I understand properly, what they're saying is they're asking us to, asking the applicant to delay removing that, pavement until they get that, culvert area stabilized, right? So really they're saying, hey, we want the applicant to have a dependency on us.
I just brought up the email to double check to make sure that they didn't, that they included some sort of time frame.
Mhm. Thank you for checking that.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a good thing I did double check it. They actually said that they have something scheduled for next week. So when they sent this email, that was the 27th.
Hmm. Oh, so it should be concluded quickly. Even if they're off, they're probably off by a couple of weeks and not by a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would recommend that we wait. We can't wait because, we're supposed to act on a COC, either accept it or reject it. And I think, I would recommend that we reject it based on the, conditions not having been completed according to the, approved plan. Any questions or comments from other members of the commission? I think I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank you, Mike. Roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. To reject that and have the applicant, come back to us after DPW's done that work and after they've completed the order of conditions, and the approved plan. Okay, 899 Flat Hill Road.
Yep. I'm just writing a quick note. 899. One is pretty straightforward now. There was a deck that was built, but retroactively, they had to come back to us and essentially their deck was built to plan now. So I would approve the COC.
Any questions or comments, by commissioners? Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. Mike and Rich, roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Mike,
aye.
and I for myself. Thank you. 197 White Street.
This one isn't approved as well. It was essentially a plot that was somehow tied into a large subdivision. But it was built to plan, so there were no issues there. So it would be a partial release as partial COC, I believe.
Oh, because it's, only one, portion
Out
of
of
the subdivision.
Right.
Okay, so we're only approving this specific address.
That's right.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Ooh. Who was that? Mike and Rich?
Yep.
Alrighty. Thank you. Roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. 1207 to 1209 Mass Ave.
Yep, so this one, was, it's a couple of different houses put together, like a condo type thing. In both areas on the front lawn, the hydroseed is not established. It didn't even sprout. A lot of that area is just not vegetated. And then the other concern on that is it appears that there's some sort of stone wall type of retaining wall, where there's part of the grading that's on top of it off to the right side if you are looking at the complex from the street.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't approve that.
Okay, do you have a photo of it by
I
chance?
do. I believe I do.
And I do see hands raised. Chris, while Sophia's looking.
Yeah, didn't they just, I mean, I drive by that all the time. Didn't they just hydroseed that? Wasn't it just hydroseeded recently? Isn't that the brand new?
It looks, yeah, it's pretty recently. I mean, it's just
So
down the
how
hill
could
from
it
me.
sprouted already? I'm just, I thought they just put it down. So-
They just put
Yeah.
it down, yeah.
So there's a lot of that is vegetated in the like towards the back area, but there is very fresh hydroseed that just hasn't even sprouted yet. And I'm searching for that. I have so many files. Let me try this. But what was really odd is the fact that there was like a stone retaining wall that I don't recall being on the plan.
Well, we still have the plans, right?
Yes.
Jenny or Chris, maybe, could you guys look up the plans for us? Okay, Sophia, while you're looking for that.
Still looking for the photos, sorry.
Yeah, for the photo, Matt, I'll call on you.
Yeah, hi. Matt Morrow, I'm representing actually Phil Colometta, the applicant for 1207 Mass Ave. So if I could be permitted to share my screen.
Yes, please.
So, okay. Why this is doing this, but there we go. Can you see that okay?
Not yet. It says you've started. There we go.
Okay. So yes, she is correct. There was a retaining wall that was put in. I spoke to my client about it. So it's a like 25-foot section of wall essentially right here. I have some pictures I can show you. It goes up about 2 feet in height. The reason why the applicant did this was because when he was completing his grading, he realized that if he had blended the rest of the grading without the retaining wall, it would have gone in this area where I'm waving my hand into the 50-foot zone. And he wanted to leave, as he had promised, he wanted to leave the 50-foot zone alone. Probably should have come in for a de minimis change, but apparently he didn't. So hoping that, you know, the commission can consider this at least a de minimis change. Now, I'm going to just stop my share for a minute. I've got some photos I can show of the site that were taken about 10 days ago.
Sophia, you have your hand raised? Did you find the photo?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you, okay, we'll just have Matt share.
Yeah, I mean, you want to share some photos. I mean, that's awesome. This is where the retaining wall is now. You can see that the sides of the area and the grass behind where the deck is, looks like a platform deck, has started to grow in very well. It's growing in on the sides and the back pretty well. Here's the a side view of that little wall. There's a measurement here that shows it's about 29 inches high. We'll say 28. So it's about 2.5 feet in height. you can see here. So the area that was planted was in the front. When I filed the original request for the COC a month ago, it had just been planted in the front. And I do believe that I have pictures that Sophie could probably share from the what do you call the portal that I had uploaded, or she may have her own. I have one more picture to share. This is it right here. This is when the area was planted back in mid-November, a few weeks ago, and the reason why it had waited so long for it to be done was because they had a delay with the water main project. There was a ton of temporary water line, and DPW was
Right.
doing a lot of work in this area. But this is the commission's total discretion, obviously. But the reason why, as I showed on the plans, which I did upload to the portal this afternoon, I had to have the engineer go down, locate that wall, and then get me the plan, which he did. The reason why he didn't want to do that was because he left the 50-foot zone alone. So what you have now is essentially, minus that small section of wall, it's only a couple of feet high. Some area of grass on the outer edge of the buffer zone that needs to finish growing in. You've got an area that the house has been, or the duplex has been built in accordance with the order. The shrubs that he was planting, the arborvitaes that was approved for the side to appease the abutter, those have been planted in accordance with the order. The engineer certificate noting the discrepancy, now I had him update his certification letter. Notice with the wall added into a certification letter noting its presence. However, the 50-foot zone from 50 feet back is still woods. It was still in the same condition as it was when it, before it was developed. So basically what he did was he honored the 50-foot zone as a no touch, which I thought actually worked out well. I mean, with that, I'll leave it to you guys to decide what you want to do from here.
Thank you, Matt. And Sophia, did you want to share anything else, or you feel like Matt's photos are representative of what you observed?
No, his photos are pretty much the exact same.
Yeah, that looks exactly the way it looked when I drove past it twice today too. So, yeah, I think the stone retaining wall to me seems to be a minor change that doesn't bother me. Not having the established, even though there are good reasons for it, not having the established grass in the front per the plan, I think does give me pause. Are there questions or comments by members of the commission? So I am looking for the commission to either make a motion to approve or make a motion to reject. And if we reject it, we would have to state the reason why.
I'm leaning to approve because I believe that grass will still take. I think it just hasn't been enough time. And I understand his reasons. I watched, we see that construction. So that's just me, but I'll approve it.
You're making a motion to approve?
Yes.
Is anyone going to second that?
Second.
Thank you. Chris and Rich, roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Jenny?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I for myself. Okay, thank you, Matt.
No, thank you guys. Have a good night.
Yeah. Okay, notice project change, 932 Flat Hill Road. Do we have that applicant or their representative here with us tonight?
Yes, I'm here, Mary.
Bob
Korea.
and okay. And you are the resident at 932?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, what are the proposed changes?
I'm just looking to extend the retaining wall up about another 25 to 30 feet up to just run it flat into the banking. Help retain my front lawn from running down onto the driveway and around the building.
Okay, do we have a plan that we can look at?
Yep, Sophie Sophia should have all that stuff. It's in the green highlighted area. If you
Mhm.
look at it, there was already about 25 feet put in, and from the line drawn horizontal, I highlighted a green additional proposed 24 feet of retaining wall. It might go up a little bit further. Again, it's just their 5-foot block, so wherever it ends,
Okay, and how tall is the retaining wall?
it's as high as it is. It's not going to go any higher than what it is now. It's only 3 blocks high.
And how high is that?
2.5, so 7.5 feet. I think they're 2.5 feet high.
Okay,
And then I'm gonna put a 2-rail fence on the top. I already have that sitting off to the side. I've already purchased it. I'm just waiting to dig the holes if I'm gonna go up another, 25 feet or not with it.
but I think that also comes into jurisdiction of the building department too, if you're building or a retaining wall that's taller than 4 feet. So,
The building inspector was already out there and approved. I'm already done with my building inspection. He's approved it. And he actually asked me why I
okay,
didn't run the retaining wall up further and,
okay,
and end it flat. And I'm like, I didn't want to overstep my boundaries. I'm just trying to
yeah,
help hold the
yeah,
banking back. And I
okay,
approached Sophie and she says, yeah, maybe we should run it, through the board and everything. And I said, okay. So,
yep,
here I
yeah,
am. But the
it's-
building inspector actually asked me that, why didn't you
that's
run it up a little
all,
further and help hold the banking back? And I'm like,
yeah, that's all I needed, is you're already working with the building department.
yep,
'Cause,
yep.
we can't have people come and say, tell the building department, oh, the Conservation Commission told us we could build a 10-foot tall retaining wall, and
Yeah, no,
therefore we don't
it's
have
not
to talk
going
to
up
you.
it's not going
Yeah,
up any higher than what's already there. And there's going to be a fence across the end, across the dogwood.
okay,
So,
okay. I don't have any issue with that. It's already in the disturbed area, within the inner riparian zone, so, uh,
again,
any questions or comments from members of the commission? I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Chris.
Second, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Roll call vote, Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich. Oh, Rich, I didn't hear you.
Okay,
Jenny,
Aye.
and I
did
for
you hear me the
myself.
second time?
I think I heard you. You said aye,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah, no, I was unmuted.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
It was getting truncated for some.
Mary, you're on mute now. You went mute. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Weird. But thank you for saying it out loud, Chris. Otherwise, I would not have known. Okay, unanimous approval for that project change.
thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, so it is after 10. So I think we're gonna have to we have one other person on. Maggie Van Sickle, you're here for what discussion?
We are, this is Melissa Candavino. Sorry, that's my daughter's account, her Zoom account. We are 67 Island Road. We're the last ones on the list.
Okay. And what is your update?
So we, I'm working on submitting the RDA, and we have 2 out of the 3 documents we need. We're just trying to finalize the site map plan.
Okay.
And then we should be able to have that completed by the end of the week and submitted.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that update. I really appreciate you acknowledging that you thought you would be farther along by this stage of the game, but coming to the commission and providing us an update on your status.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did stop by the building commission. And we talked.
We talked to Brian from the building commission about the lack of a permit on the deck and two, so we're trying to make sure that that's squared away.
Okay, very good. Very good. Thank
So
you.
we should have a site plan ready for you in the next couple days and hopefully everything to Sophie.
Okay.
We're sorry for the delay, the holiday season, everything else. Just we can make a million excuses.
Well, and when you haven't done it before, you don't really know, you know,
Oh my gosh,
what
process
you're
is
getting
crazy.
into. Yeah.
Figure out map numbers and plot
Honestly,
ID.
I thought you were being a little overly optimistic, but you know, it makes it made sense for you to be aggressive, right? And we appreciated you trying to be aggressive, but I'm not surprised that you came back and said we need a little bit more time. But thank you for coming back and giving us that update.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll
Okay.
keep in touch with Sophia and make sure that we're getting what you need.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be doing your hearing on the 18th of December.
Oh. Okay, yeah. If we get that in, that'll be enough time for you to hear it in December.
Sophia will be able to give you the best guidance on that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're on it. Measurements were made today, and we're gonna try to draw it up tomorrow and get it submitted.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. And for the purposes of the meeting, Sophia has left us. She is off the clock at 10 o'clock promptly. One thing that we do need to cover tonight, we had attempted to have a 7:15 appointment hearing to discuss the encroachment at 950 Chase Road. And Sophia had reached out to the residents in an attempt to give them an opportunity to come in and discuss this encroachment. You may recall this property has a barn that is actually fully on the Larchtown Forest parcel. And we had been working previously with Adam on working with residents to attempt to resolve all of these. Oh, for some reason, it's not letting me share, which is strange because I'm the host. I should be able to share. Oh, wait, I didn't click the right thing. Okay. So this is the property right here. Here's the barn. Right. So we have talked about this in the past. The residents that own the property now were not the owners when the time the barn was installed. To my knowledge, and what I've seen online, this house was transacted under an MLS posting that included disclosure of an encroachment issue with that barn. And from what I understand, the residents have advised the town that they are not assuming any responsibility for this infraction that was created by a party other than themselves. And so the way this process works with our litigation system here in the state is it's been referred for litigation and it's gone to the first stage, which I think may be arbitration, and the applicants have said that they're not inclined to take any responsibility there. So now it's incumbent upon the town to determine if they want to litigate or if they can have the owners take some responsibility for this encroachment that was disclosed at the time they purchased the parcel. And I have talked to the chair of the select board, And his guidance to me is that it's really not within the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction to obligate the town to litigation. That really is the charter of the select board. So if we feel this needs to be escalated to be considered for litigation, we need to discuss that here and refer it to the select board for consideration of further litigation. And my own thought about this is, well, I'm sympathetic with the owners that have inherited this problem. It appears to have been a disclosed problem and an encumbrance when they purchased the property. So I'm sympathetic, but I also, am very clear that the town did not create the problem, and I'm reluctant to let the town bear the full burden of taking the barn down. And the barn would need to be taken down. I think Bob had gotten some estimates on taking it down. There were informal estimates, but the best guess that Chris Ruth was able to come up with was somewhere in the neighborhood of $9,000 to $10,000. So anyway, I'm myself speaking as one commissioner, reluctant to have the town incur the cost of tearing down that barn that was put there through no fault of the other members of the town. Any questions or comments there?
Yeah. When you told me the price, I had the same opinion as you and Mary. It's just not, with that kind of, it's just not good use of funds. So I concur.
Okay. Yeah, Rich.
You said that they were aware of the encroachment. How do we know they were aware of the encroachment?
It was
And what
actually in the
liability did they
MLS.
accept?
It was in the MLS posting.
What did it say?
It said that the property comes with an encroachment issue that would have to be resolved with the town.
Okay. Then we have that page or
It's online. I mean,
Okay.
at least it was when I looked in the spring when this first came up.
okay. And was it on their deed?
Now that I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't know how it would be on the deed unless the town had litigated to get it put on their deed, right?
Because I mean, we have no proof that the people actually read the MLS listing.
No, we don't.
And it didn't describe what the encroachment issue was. Did it say that it came with a shed that was on somebody else's property?
I wouldn't trust my memory on that part of it.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not in favor of trying to litigate somebody for using a building on somebody else's property that they didn't put there.
That's fair.
That's just my opinion, but
Mm-hmm. I think the way this would net out is probably then the Conservation Commission would somehow have to allocate the funds to have it removed. Because staying there unmaintained would be, a hazard. And there's no way to access it from the public land. Because all of this is wetland, right? So yeah, it would need to come down.
that we need to get permission from one of the abutters to get out to it.
I think we have, I think these, the parcel owners at 950 have said that they would work with the town to grant permission to take it down.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, you have your hand raised?
Yes, Madam Chair. Is this the same shed that the fire department said that they would not use as a burn?
That's correct, yes.
All right. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know. I know some buildings they're willing to burn and some they are not. So this
Yeah.
sounds like one they are not.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I can't raise my hand.
Oh, right, Jenny.
But there is a disclosure on the, and it says it was disclosed on the MLS that says shed is not on the property and being sold as is, subject to the seller's satisfactory relocation. So it looks like it was disclosed, but the seller was supposed to relocate it. Unless
Hmm.
it's a different shed that they're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, that's the only one that's a subject of an encroachment.
Right.
So where are we on this? Is anybody willing to make a motion to either not proceed with litigation and have the Conservation Commission manage the tear down solely, or is anyone willing to motion that we refer this back to the select board to consider whether litigation should proceed or not?
I like the third idea. I'll move that as a motion to refer it back to the Board of Selectmen for review.
I will second that.
Okay.
And just let
Rich
them know. Well,
and
actually, we
Mike?
should probably take a vote on who is and who is not in favor of litigating, and then just give them our findings on either to or not to move forward with litigation, our recommendation.
Okay, so the recommendation of the Conservation Commission on litigation.
So moved.
Actually, Rich, I was advised that that's not really what the select board wants from us. They want us to have confirmed to them that we have gone as far as we feel like we can, and then refer it back to them with the with it putting it fully in their lap on whether to proceed with litigation and not to make a recommendation.
Oh, okay. I'll make a
Um,
motion that we pass it back to the Board of Selectmen. Tell them we've gone as far as we think we can. Then we're not in favor of litigation.
Second.
I second that.
Go
ahead, Chris.
Hang on though, Rich, you started out with refer it back to the select board, but then you ended with a recommendation not to litigate.
I'll strike that last sentence.
Okay, so you're making a motion to refer it back to the select board for them to decide whether to litigate or not.
Correct.
Okay. And Chris, you second that motion still?
Yes.
Okay. All right, roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. Okay, so we will refer that back to the select board for their consideration. Okay, folks, how much administrative stuff do you want to go through tonight? You want to try to take a stab at doing it as fast as we can and getting out of here, or do you want to? There are one or two things that I think we do need to cover, but I would consider doing an abbreviated rest of the agenda.
Yeah, I have an early morning, so I'd like to get out of here as soon as we can.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mike.
until we have a new plan in January with Michael Ray, I still feel we need to do our attempt at keeping 123 Hollis Road intact until then. So
Absolutely. There's no change until there is an approved change.
okay. So I wanted to address that maintenance that I think we should do before winter sets in, as we've done in past years, to approve funds to have Cam's Heating go in there and service the heating system before winter. And we may need to approve not to exceed $400 for that that service, and I can work that out with Chris Ruth to make sure the invoice comes in to him and he pays it on time.
So moved. Does anybody second it?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Aye.
Rich already said aye, and Jenny said aye. I say aye on behalf of the chair.
Thank you.
Was there another, I think you had said extermination, Mike?
Well, we had always done that. When we get an issue, we would send the exterminator, and we haven't gotten any calls in that regard. And the only other thing that I spoke with Chris Ruth, as we were on an ongoing looking for cabinetry to replace the existing cabinetry. And I believe there's a couple of leads on some used cabinets. But as of this morning, we do not have a definitive recycled cabinets that would be suitable for Hollis Road at this time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
And the things that I just wanted to quickly put before you is to make certain that everybody is clear. We have a unusual schedule in January. The first, obviously, is not, it's a holiday, right? So we're not going to meet on the 1st. So last summer we agreed to meet on the 8th and on the 22nd. So if everybody would please mark that on their calendars, so you're not surprised. Let's see, it's the 8th and the 22nd. Did I say that? It's
Yes.
late. I feel like I'm saying different things. All right, and then the other thing is that Hickory Hills Lake wants to come in and do a lake report. Those generally are an hour on their own. They are, if we wanted to consider doing an off-cycle meeting, they are available to come in on the 29th. And that would be all we would do. We wouldn't do any other business, just that, have a special session for that lake report. Otherwise, they would be available on the 5th. But we tend to go really late whenever we have them come in and do a lake report. Yes, Chris.
Does that require votes, or are we just listening? Does that require, like, is there an approval process for those? So do you need a quorum for that?
I think we do need a quorum. I don't recall that we have to do votes on that particularly, but that leads up to the votes that, and the Q&A leads up to the votes that we do on their spraying and, treatments that they do, that they want a quick turn on in June and July.
Okay.
Rich, you're closer to that than I am. But do we have to generally vote on their to accept their lake
I
report?
believe we do. I thought they were presenting their plan for the coming year.
I think that's it.
If
Yeah.
they were looking to do any weed treatments.
Yeah. And we don't approve a treatment then, but we approve a strategy, I think. You're right about that. Yeah. Yeah. So we would need a quorum.
Yeah.
I would be willing to, well, if you're gonna do it, I don't know if you're just, how formal you're gonna be, but I tell you, I can be there on the 29th.
And anybody not be here on the 29th?
I will be away that week.
You'll be away that week. Okay. Mike, any idea?
I won't be in Lunenburg, but I will be attending. Is that a Wednesday?
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
All right, I can put it in the book.
Okay. Rich, would you be available then?
I think so. I won't know until I actually get over to the islands to make sure that I have Starlink connectivity.
Mhm.
So hopefully I'll be able to verify that the 1st of January.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll make it a plan for then. I also maybe have a line on somebody who's looking to join the Conservation Commission, which might give us some flexibility on quorum too. But I don't know how quickly during the holidays the select board can turn that around. And it's a single candidate, so we don't right now have any choices to make. So, but he sounded very interested, sounded very promising, and all for very good reasons. Interested in enforcement of the WPA, interested in making certain that there's uniform treatment and application of the regulations, and then also very interested in Conservation Commission property management and trail stewardship, etc. Okay. I don't see anything else on this agenda as a priority, so I think I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Jenny. Roll call vote. Chris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I for myself. So we are adjourning at 10:27 p.m. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Good night, everyone.
Yay.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Good
Night,
night.
everybody.